Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. I'm bringing you here for the second time today. Just went off from a magnificent 500-mile oval race in the majors. Now we switch the miles to kilometers. We're going 500 Ks at Imola for round 11 of V8SCOPS for 2024. The enduro part of the championship is upon us and the final 3 rounds of the season. Next up is Sandown and then rounding off the season with the Bathurst 1000. We're at the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari, a magnificent circuit that's produced some great enduro racing in previous years, and we're looking forward to seeing ever more of it here this Sunday afternoon. Bringing it to you live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. It's me, Reese Gardner, with Scott Rangan alongside me in the commentary box. Jay Kennedy, as always, behind the scenes, pressing all the buttons, bringing you these live pictures. Well, Scott, we had an entertaining IndyCar race. Now it's time to switch things up. 2 more cylinders, a lot more weight, and a roof here in Italy.
Yeah, but I wish we could go back and jump back aboard those IndyCars. There's something about them that I thoroughly enjoy. I might just be me. But yeah, into Italy and home of what's historically been a phenomenal racing track. It's played host to some brilliant racing over the years, and let alone supercars, where it's been relegated to this really weird endurance slot the last couple of seasons as well. She's a tough, challenging little racetrack. There's enough straight line stuff, but really, is there any of these bits of the racetrack that are actually straight? Because they've all got kind of a little kink in them left and right somewhere around this track.
Yeah, Imola, very much an old-school circuit, opening in the early 1950s. It's had this specific layout since 2008, when the Variante Bassa chicane at the end of the lap was eliminated. Still there for bikes, of course, but I think what defines this circuit is that really long front straight. You're negotiating those kinks and sweeps on your way to Tamburello at turns 2, 3, and 4, and what defines the rest of the lap, I think, is consistency and mid-corner speed. There's chicanes and braking zones and tight corners all over the place around this layout.
Yeah, it really is. You've got to have a car that pulls itself up, that turns well, that navigates curbs well. Yeah, and it's got to have all of those cool attributes, right? So, you know, bring yourself a car that's a little bit average and you can just about forget about it, eh?
Yeah, exactly. 500k race with co-drivers, and of course it's the usual sort of rules that you'd expect from that. It's 102 laps in length. We're in the middle of qualifying right now for that 102 lap race, and everyone has to do at least a third of the race, so minimum 34 laps for a co-driver. Here's Sam Blacklock. Orbit Drop Bear Mercury currently top of the qualifying session. 1 minute 41.495 is the time to beat for everybody. Good to see Sam Blacklock back out there racing. And I love Enduro season in V8SCOPS because it gives us an opportunity to check back in with some drivers who may not have competed in the series for a while.
I was just thinking exactly the same thing. You know, we haven't seen this fella in a good while. I wonder how he's been. I wonder how he's been taking the time off. Is he any slower since he's been away? No is the answer. And look out, because Sam Blacklock is back behind the wheel, and Sam Blacklock is a lock-in for pace.
Yeah, certainly is. Currently P1 in the session. He is sharing the 215 with Tyson Broad. And remember, Blacklock is a former Imola 500 race winner. I believe with Trans-Tasman Racing. So he's certainly got the pedigree there. And I think it might have been with Altus. I have to double check with that. But Blacklock's been around the block a few times. He's raced for Trans-Tasman Racing. He's raced for Altus Esports, and he's lost none of his pace, as you can see. Mega aggressive curve usage up at Variante Alta. We'll see if this lap is an improvement for him.
The big thing is coming to the end of this session as well, is that this is the final run for these drivers. Checkered flags now in the air halfway through this qualifying session. We're both taking a little bit of a break and trying to catch up on all that sort of happened across the journey of the day. But I'll tell you what, I love being back here. I love this racetrack. It's about time to go active, and Sam says, yep, that lap wasn't going to count anyway. So pit lane entry practice and checking. That's the biggest thing when you're getting back in, is have I ticked all my boxes? Have I, as I like to say, I don't say names wrong. I say slogans wrong. So I like to cross my I's and dot my T's.
Yes, indeed. We've gotten that confirmation that Blacklock did win this race before with Altus, and he was driving alongside James Scott, who is the championship leader this year for Lobs Esports. So plenty of pedigree in this field, as it looks like the majority of our runners are coming in. The last cut across the line was just behind Lockhart Brownlee here. Vincent Skilbeck in the Wheelie Bins Mayhem Republic 091. Lockhart's going to commit to pit lane. Skilbeck's going to commit to the end of the lap. 142.7 the time to beat for him. Is there an improvement at 42.8? Unfortunately not for Vincent Skilbeck, driving the Enduro Cup with Matthew Doust. So that's the end of the first half of qualifying there. The top 19 cars having set times, and then we bring out the big guns. This is going to be a very difficult session, I think, for a lot of these drivers as we go over the results of the first half of qualifying. Blacklock just over a tenth ahead of Justin Wallace, who was at the wheel of the number 13 JTIT race on Oz, machine sharing with Tyler Blackburn. Benjamin Smith putting the 91 in third place. Orbit Drop Bear doing very well with Connor Nixon there in fourth place. Stuart Christensen, Tomoyasu Inatani joining the Phoenix Racing team for this one, driving the number 86 in seventh. That's a very solid qualifying performance indeed. And rounding things out with the two Delaney's, Ty and Blake for Fishy Motorsports.
Yeah, solid top 10 performance for all of those guys, but then we're going to pick our way back through, and there's a name in this one I think is really, really interesting. I'm keen to see how they do. Robert Crusdale from J. Brazier, going to be 9.5 tenths off of the pace. David Nash, look at those three cars and how close they are. We throw it outside the second off the pace. Will Brown for Phoenix Racing Team. Stephen Banks is Pacific Racing 077 Lockhart Brownlee. We saw them doing the lap late on. Vincent Skilbeck driving alongside Matthew Douse, which is Douse is a maligned personality, but he's got a lot of personality, I will say that much. Blake Fitzpatrick. And Ocean Colangelo is a very, very young open wheel driver who is just making their way into the esports fray in iRacing. This is going to be a tough challenge for Ocean, but when they get behind the wheel of an open wheeler, that is one of the quicker drivers in Australia. They are a phenomenal driver, and this will be about experience gathering. I believe she's actually either 12 to 14, somewhere in that range. Very, very young. Could we be looking at the next Rehan Leonage, potentially?
Yeah, potentially. There's always that chance. Of course, Leonage exploded onto the V8SCOPS scene a couple of years ago at the mere age of 12. And, well, Colangelo is 12 years old, as we're hearing in our ears. So, yeah, there's a lot of young guns coming up through the ranks. And when we say young, we mean it. Small correction, once again, to the winning record for Sam Blacklock. He also won this race in 2019, again with Altus. He was driving with Jackson Suzlin Harlow back in 2019. Now that's a name that I have not seen in a very long time, and I often wonder, how's Jackson doing? Because he's he was super quick, and for some reason just not part of the V8SCOPS scene for the last couple of years. So we'll need to wait and see if there's any sort of comeback from him, as we wait on comebacks for many drivers in this community. Well, the pace car is out. Dan Stevens at the wheel of the safety car here. And, well, he's certainly been through the ringer, finishing in 8th spot in the Majors wildcard race at Fontana earlier today. He's already had a lot of track time, and I think he'll be grateful for the chance to potentially have a bit of a break here.
Oh boy, here we go. This is going to be fun. And I'll tell you what, that Porsche is certainly doing it laps at the moment. Very, very quiet race cars out there and clearing the circuit for our drivers, but this could be one of the more important qualifying sessions of the year. Overtakes at Imola do not come easily. They come at a premium. And that means you got 15 minutes. You better set yourself a quality lap time right here, or else you are going to be on the back foot from the get-go.
Yeah, indeed you are. Pace car enters the pit lane, and we now see the next roster of drivers out on the circuit. We're focusing on Troy Stone Street here in the WKMP Sim Sports number 63. As far as I'm aware, not sure exactly who he's driving with, but I believe it's Blake Warboys, who usually drives the number 63 Mustang, emblazoned with the Chubby Buns Burgers signage there. I love the liveries that WKMP's been coming up with over the course of this year. Certainly awesome to see a bunch of beautifully painted race cars out there today, including this one here, Andrew Dyson in the number 41, driving with Darren Lobb for simracing.com DPR, but the specific team Circulators Incorporated, a subsidiary of DPR. That is the literal team name.
That is them absolutely taking the mickey out of everything they possibly can. With MRP Racing, so Mountain Racing Products Racing is Lobby's team, and DPR Racing, of course, we all know Andrew Dyson. I think these two are absolutely taking the mickey. I think what's happened is that these guys were having a little bit of a laugh. They saw that qualifying come up, or Lobby messaged the other one and went, hey, how do you feel about having an absolute stab out here and having some... It's been a while since I've seen Darren Lobb actually getting around the track, so I think he's gotten a little bit busy of late, and I know that there was, I believe, Bubble in the way, and I think parenting duties have sort of taken the wheel, shall we say, from Darren Lobb, and he hasn't been back behind the wheel as much as he necessarily will like, so it's good to see him back out there. He is such a funny personality. But the giggles per minute in that car are extremely high.
Oh yeah, GPM, love it. Well, in terms of RPM, you can only get up to 7,500. I wonder how many giggles per minute they're going to be running here as Andrew Dyson makes his way through Piratella, this beautiful sweeping left-hand corner. Got to be careful over the curbs here. I was talking about it on Friday night. The curbs here are quite interesting. The majority of them, they're reasonably flat, still rather raised as far as Formula 1 circuits go, but there's quite a few curbs around here where you've got to look out for the colour of the green runoff. If it's dark green like that at the exit of Variante Alta, it's AstroTurf and it's slippery. But when you come down to Rivazza, you'll notice some light green runoff area. That is painted concrete, and it has way more grip than the dark green AstroTurf, so you can use a little more. Look at that, in between the two corners there, a little strip of that AstroTurf in between the corners, so you've got to be careful about your car placement.
We're going to have to get some updates on that curving down there, because I'm pretty sure it's actually a combination of both colours. And yeah, between Rivazza 1 and Rivazza 2, there is actually both kinds of AstroTurf you just mentioned. Which I've never noticed about Imola before, but thanks, Reese. Look at you go. You've enlightened my day.
I'm that kind of hyper-focused nerd that pays attention to those sorts of details around racetracks. I've certainly noticed it when behind the wheel. James Scott here, championship leader in the 088 for Lobbs Esports. They're driving as Doing Okay by Lobbs today. Doing Okay emblazoned on the car for quite a few rounds now. 1 minute 40.9 for James Scott, and that's immediately to provisional pole. He is going to be a certain contender for this race victory.
Oh my word, I've just been enlightened as to a livery that's out there and circulating. So I'm not gonna put that on broadcast, but oh boy. The giggles per minute in the commentary box. Yeah, it's this one. It's this one.
Oh dear. Oh lordy.
It gets better. Hang on, it gets better.
Oh,
So,
no.
by the way, fun fact, my cat's name is Rufus, and apparently there's a Rufus in this car. I don't know if it's the rear bumper.
I see.
There's a dog going about its business. Yeah.
Oh yes. Oh dear. Well,
Is the Imola 500 known as the giggles per minute race or something? Like,
I mean, I think V8SCOPS Enduros in general is a giggles per minute competition for many of these teams. They do like to get out there, have a laugh with their liveries. You sometimes see some retro liveries as well. It's just a bunch of fun, some nice colourful fun to end off the season this year. Usually, the V8SCOPS Enduro Cup is sort of the late end of the season, but there are a couple of regular rounds still to go after. But due to scheduling conflicts, we've had to switch things up a little bit, and the Enduro Cup now finishes off the season. So we'll wait and see then how that affects the championship standings, because it means there's a lot more points on the board for the drivers coming into these final rounds, and it means there's going to be massive point swings depending on the result.
yeah, I mean, potentially, but, you know, you've also got to make sure that you get out the other side and you stick pace on the table. And, you know, the other side of the coin is clean running is going to be a big part of this. Got to make sure that you're in there and that you're getting everything done in the right order. Make sure that you're at least out there having fun for the entirety of the day. And hey man, who knows what can happen at the back end of the race.
Yeah, indeed. Speaking of giggles per minute, that 043 that we were looking at has been instructed to return to the pits by race control. Apparently in the incorrect qualifying group, so that's going to be a bit of a laugh for everybody else out there. As the seriousness begins to come back, Kenneth Latter for Fishy Motorsport, car 269. This is a car that I'm looking forward to seeing how well it's going to do, because Latter, you know, he competes regularly in the V8 Veterans Championship, which you'd obviously be very familiar with, Scott. He's one of the front runners in that championship. He's got a lot of pace behind him. He's driving with Jamie Dyke in that 269. Very interesting pairing.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's tough to say who should actually be the better driver out of that car, because they've both had strong runs, strong performances. I don't know where Ken is mentally at the moment. Speed-wise, he's been extremely strong. He's certainly moving further forward, I would think. So pace-wise, he's doing okay. The problem I sort of have is race strategy. I don't know if I've seen him more unsettled or missing. He seems to get the blinders on really, really well. And sometimes from a race driver's perspective, you want them to get their head down, push as hard as they possibly can, and be in the zone. I've seen him make so many strategy faux pas of late, but there are races that he certainly could have and should have won, and he's just made mistakes at key opportunities. So, I'll do it, right? We all go through, we've all had one of those off-form moments. Unfortunately, mine's in cricketing at the moment, which makes it very, very tough for 6 hours on a Sunday when you're really sitting in a chair all afternoon watching everybody else do things, or chasing the red letter around the field because you should have put more runs on the board. But, you know, it comes and it goes in circles, and I think Ken's just on a downer at the moment. And honestly, hey man, I await when he finds that little element that's missing again, because when he does, he's such a good driver. Yeah,
Definitely is. We've seen some great performances from him in V8 Vets and in V8SCOPS, and that lap was pretty good for him, enough for 6th spot on the provisional grid. Meanwhile, on board with Jordan Ross around a lap here through the middle sector. This part of the circuit is going to be one of the more difficult ones. Coming down to Acqua Minerale, you're on the brakes and you're turning at the same time here for a corner where you've got to stay off that curb on the right, run a bit over the curb on the exit. Be careful of the AstroTurf there, because it's very slippery indeed, and it'll certainly swing you around. Ross for Synergy Sim Racing, one of the long-time top V8SCOPS competitors, and driving in Pro Invitational as well. I'm interested to see what he'll be able to do in car 143. That's a nice turn in for Rivazza 1, and this is looking like a lovely clean lap.
very, very clean, very accurate, very minimal amounts of oversteer. It says there's a ton of grip that's actually being laid down in that track as well. Really, really good opportunity for him here to stick it on the top here for Jordan Valentino Ross. So.
5th place, and it's going to be a good run initially for the 1-4-3 there. Just putting themselves ahead of the top qualifying car from the first group of qualifying. No laps in practice for Synergy 143, so we'll have to wait and see what their true pace is like in the race. Ewan Baker, meanwhile, in car 34, making his way to the line there in the Mustang. 141.5 for him. That'll put him 6th, and then there's a big improvement from the Team Jinx Shifters 209. Brett Loxton at the wheel of that one, up to P3. I'm amazed at the form of Brett Loxton and Chris Coxhead this season. And for those of you watching on Friday, yes, I did get their names right finally.
I was just about to check in to make sure.
Yeah.
We all have those moments that get remembered, and I've been informed that I've got to punish you for that one. You're going to be remembering that one for a while. So.
Oh boy! All right, I'll buckle up then. Speaking of buckling up, looks like James Scott is on another lap here and could be improving. He just set an improved lap time. 1 minute 40.7 is now the pace. Solid 3/10 ahead of Rehan Leonard, who's put the number 79 Phoenix Racing Team car on the provisional front row. It's going to be a tough competition between these two up at the front.
Yeah, it really, really is. And I mean, look at the moment. James Scott's going from strength to strength. And whilst in terms of the Logitech Pro Invitational, things not necessarily haven't gone his way, and it's mistakes at key times, and mistakes that necessarily he's been at the keel for. He's had a strong finish, but he's played second fiddle quite a lot. And the Scops, I get the feeling he's happy to take that because of how well he's done it, right? And the challenge for James Scott is that he doesn't like being second fiddle a lot of the time. Where does he go next? What does that look like for 2025? First off, he's got to lock out a Scots championship and really, really dominate it. And this is such a big statement for him. He is saying there are 2 people in Australia in a supercar right now that you want to be paying attention to. One of them, unfortunately, can't race here. I'm the other one. And you better keep your eyes on me at every single available opportunity. That's what the driver said this year, right? He's been clean, he's been quick, he's been consistent, he's ticked every single box. Now we're going to go to a new generation of car, hopefully, for 2025. Well, I'd like to be on talent right now, because that says I've got formula. It says to me my background work is so strong, and I'm coming into a generation with momentum. It means that I don't have to practice on my technique. I can just work on the car, getting the setups right, and getting the car in the window.
Yeah, indeed. The drivers who are up the top here, they'll certainly be carrying that momentum into the potential Gen 3 era to come. Ryan Leonard starting his what should be one of his final qualifying laps here. Look at his face, look at the way he's concentrating on the car here. He is fixed on the road ahead of him, and he wants that pole position for Phoenix Racing Team. He needs to find 0.3 of a second somewhere around this lap, and there's a little bit of traffic ahead of him. That might be the difference maker.
Just might be. It's tough. It's looking after those tires. Qualifying in these cars is something else. It is so unique. And for Rehan right now, he'll be sitting there and going, 0.3 off the pace. Okay. All right, there's some room to be found there. But the other side of the coin is, I'm at the front end of the field. I'm starting on the front row. All I'm going to do is just get down to turn 1, and we're looking like we're in a really, really good spot. So it's really difficult, but you've got to take those wins when they're presented. And of all the wins that he's had this year, after bursting onto the scene in the format that he's had, you can't take your eyes off the personality. Because if you take your eyes off such a young personality for any moment, they're either going to go soaring or they're going to go falling. He's going to fall at some point. Everyone has that in their career. But I just don't see that. I see this as being a long, steady, continued growth period, and he'll keep picking up. He's guy's, what, 16 at the moment? He's 3/10 off the James Scott.
Yeah, it's insane, the pace that Rayan Leonage has. Is it going to be enough here? He just misses out on improving there. You saw on that lap there was a couple of occasions where the rear end of the car kicked out a little too much. Now you want a car that is good on rotation at Imola because there's so many sharp corners around here, but you carry that a little too much and ultimately it hurts your exits and it burns up your rear tires, which is certainly not ideal in an endurance race. Checkered flag flying in qualifying. Kenneth Latta going to come up to the line here and make a small improvement there. It's not going to be enough to elevate his position anymore, but still a almost provisional top 10 for Fishy Motorsport 269. What can Dyson do? He is a solid competitor himself. A 141.4 is certainly... Oh, I thought it was going to do it, but he's gotten an off track over that lap, and he's going to miss out.
Yeah, but capable of that lap time and capable of moving forwards, and now an opportunity to do some practice starts and get away with things. Jordan Ross, I mean, wouldn't he love to just bookend the season and just put this on what's not necessarily been their best year at Sim Racing? It's really the weakest they've looked at in a little while, but that's also an opportunity to sit back and go, hey, all right, relax a little, reset ourselves, focus on 2025. I'm seeing 2024 for a lot of these teams as a break year, a gap year, if you will, because they want to come back. They still want to be relevant in 2025. And I don't see any Sim Racing guys.
Brady Myers in the 22 getting into the top 4 there in the Holden Racing Team Tribute Trans-Tasman Racing car. That was a magnificent lap from him, 141.2. Is there anything that you and Baker can do to improve? No, just misses out on improving on 8th spot, and looks to me like that's almost all of the drivers having completed their laps in the qualifying session. You're right, though. I think, you know, this is what everyone believes. This is the last year of Gen 2 cars being the quote-unquote current V8s on iRacing. Gen 3 is on the way, and from what iRacing said in the last season build notes, they were almost ready for this season, but they just had to do a little bit more work on the cars. So we might be seeing them racing Gen 3 Camaros and Mustangs for round 1 next year. Very high chance of that happening, and there's a solid chance that people are going to come to the fore, come back to the cars after some time spent out. The fatigue of running the same cars year in, year out will be lifted, and we might see a brand new golden era of V8 racing on iRacing from that. Well, that is the end of the qualifying session, and it's time to go through the starting order for this 500k 102 lap race. Doing okay by Lobs. The 088 is starting on pole position in the hands of James Scott. A brilliant lap, and absolutely put the number on the rest of the field there with Phoenix Racing Team HRS. Leonage at the wheel of that one on qualifying, starting on the front row. Look out for that matchup into turn 1. Vermilion Esports 117. Zach Rattray White qualified the car. They're going to be starting in 3rd. Then it's Trans-Tasman Racing 22 with Brady Myers alongside. Team Jinx Shifters, the 209 in the hands of Brett Loxton, getting into the top 5 alongside Orbit Drop Bear Mercury, the 215 in the hands of Sam Blacklock and Tyson Broad. And then Synergy Sim Racing sharing the 4th row, the 143 with Jordan Ross, and the number 34 of Ewan Baker starting alongside him. Rounding out the top 10, we have the JTIT Race on Oscar of Justin Wallace and Tyler Blackburn sharing that bookend of the top 10 with Vermilion Esports number 15, Lewis Greathead and Aidan Kale.
Yeah, outside your 10, you're going to get back to the 11th spot. Fishy Motorsport 269, that was that lap late on in the session that bumped them outside of the 10. And Ken Latta and Jamie Dyke are going to be starting out of 11th spot here this afternoon. Alongside of them, though, the number 025 Fishy Entry will have Michael Angus behind the wheel. Alongside of him will be Michael Whiting. So it'll be 2 fishy cars off of row number 6. Row number 7 is going to be that Circulators Inc. subsidiary of DPR and with Madden Racing Products, which will be Andrew Dyson and Darren Lobb. Alongside of them, the 91 entry, the Race on Oz car, which will have Benjamin Smith and Joe Mahoney. Connor Nixon and Michael Stewart are going to be starting these cars outside of 15th and 16th. Good to see Michael Stewart out and enjoying himself an Imola 500. ANZ Motorsports are going to be on row number 9 with Ben Christensen and Shokin Atake. Phoenix Racing Team MHD2 starting out of the outside of row number 9. Fishy Motorsports will have 2 more entries in the field, also in the same row as each other. David Kirby up alongside of Ty Delaney to round out the 20.
One more Fishy Motorsports car in the hands of Chris Miller and Blake Delaney to start in 21st place alongside the second Jinx Shifters car with Aaron Gilbert taking the wheel in qualifying. Frog Elite Juice Racing, Rob Crisdale qualifying the 808 starting in 23rd alongside the Phase 4 Motorsport car of Jay Brazier and Ben Morris. Then we move into 25th, the 801 Sim Racing car with David Nash taking to the start in that machine. Then the third of our Phoenix Racing Team cars with William Brown and Tim Mulford sharing the number 196. The 077 Pacific Esports Racing car, Stephen Banks and Peter Pavlovich taking the Dubby Mustang from 27th spot alongside Orbit Drop Bear Mars with Lockhart Brownlee and Dylan Walker at the wheel. Then there's Troy Stone Street and Blake Warboys in the WKMP SimSports 63. Wheelie Bins Mayhem Republic rounds out the top 30 in the hands of Vincent Skilbeck and Matthew Doust. Just 4 more cars left. The Pacific Esports Racing 686, Blake Fitzpatrick and Robbie Bradbury in that one. Then Race on Osby Electrical, Philip Dalton and Oceane Colangelo, the youngest driver in the field. Then there's the Vermilion Esports Dynaco entry, the 043, Jamie Christensen and Seth Brown. Rounding out the field, the number 1 car, Griffin Gardner, the reigning champion of the series, starting this from the very back, driving with Dylan Rudd. So, that rounds things out here. Griffin Gardner and Dylan Rudd, that is a very interesting pairing indeed. And we've got so many fantastic pairings here.
Oh yeah, so good. I really, really like the fact that they're coming from the rear end of the field too, because that gives us an opportunity to have a look at them overtaking some cars. Oh boy, that's going to be a ton of fun to watch. Ocean Colangelo is going to have a rough day at the office. Like you said, you know, open wheeler, Carter, that's really starting to make a way for them. I like this because the big thing for me, Reese, is that we're starting to see more and more younger drivers on the uptake of the sim racing things. I reckon we're 5 years away from you have to have sim racing experience to be successful in the world of motor racing.
Yeah, I mean, track time is the great advantage, isn't it? You know, you get your head in the game a lot more when you're sim racing most of your off time when you're not on the real track. Well, we're going to take our eyes away from the real racetrack and have a look at the pixels and the laser-scanned bumps of the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari as the field gets ready to start the Imola 500. Round 11 of V8SCOPS is go. And it looks to me like a good start from Andrew Gilliam, who takes the wheel of the 088 for the start. Leonage getting an all-right start, but already under pressure from Brady Myers, who's made his way into third, into Tamburello for the first time. The Synergy 143 round the outside of the second Jinx Shifters car. Michael Taliancic already putting his mark on this race.
The driver that made the biggest boo-boo that you can have in sim racing. Guess what? On screen, and you can already see how flat he feels. He didn't even get to turn number 1 before it's all kind of going wrong. And, you know, you got to rebuild yourself. You got to cross your I's and dot your T's. And you forgot to pull the ball
such a poor start for Orbit Drop Bear Mercury. The 215 going to have to really fight their way back and bank on a couple of safety cars to find their way back through this field. It's a clean start up the front though. Gilliam leads from Leonage from Myers. That is your top three. Jacob O'Reilly in the Vermilion 117 sitting in fourth at the moment and keeping a nice gap over Talyancic. Looks like Tyler Blackburn in the JTI Team Race on Oz machine there, the orange and black car at the front of that pack, is starting to be the metaphorical cork in the bottle for everyone from 8th place back. But our top three is starting to jet away from everyone else. They have their head in the game. They are getting this race off to the best start possible.
Yep. Now it's settled in. Start to work on things, start to build the little margins, protect the tires where you can. Don't have a big opportunity. If somebody makes a mistake ahead of you, get your head down and try and take advantage of it. Can't take advantage of it. Make sure you're saving fuel. Make sure you've got your eyes on the end of this race. 102 laps the distance, and we're already at the end of one of those circuits. One more of those circuits, nice clean 100 to go.
Yeah, indeed. Man, this is a magnificent sight, isn't it? A bunch of 600 plus horsepower V8s making their way down the straight towards the Villeneuve chicane through difficult sequence of corners. This, again, it's braking and turning. You've got to make sure that you have the front end sorted out, but then you come to Tosa, the hairpin. You need to make sure that you have everything in the rear end for the best traction out of this corner. For now, looks like they're all pretty equal, but I can see that Myers is starting to close in on Leonage a little bit for second. We ride on board though with Adam Briggs, who's taken the wheel of the Synergy Sim Racing number 34 there. Ewan Baker, his co-driver, couldn't quite improve on his ultimate time in qualifying, but now Briggsy is looking for a position here.
He's getting blocked quite aggressively as well. Thomas Innes doesn't look like his biggest fan. Thomas Innes has had some success this year. We spent some time with him in the commentary box in the V8 Veterans for a little while. Had to move house, had a bunch of stuff going on, and he's had to take a big old break. But before he got to do that, won himself a fixed into the Australia Championship. So the man's at least got some talent. He recognises a fight that's not worth having early on.
That was a very aggressive outbreaking manoeuvre by Briggsy, and it looked like Hens maybe just blended out of the throttle a little bit. It's a difficult section down to Rivazza. You're negotiating a right-hand blend before you get into the braking zone, and basically jumping on the anchors as soon as you are at the apex there. The fastest lap of the race so far going to Phoenix Racing Team Leonage with a 42.6, and that's not that much faster than Andrew Gilliam. It looks like they're very well matched up the front. Meanwhile, Michael Stewart and Scott McCune in the 919. This is the battle for 20th place. They're being chased by Sho Kanatake, who it looks like is setting up the exit at Tamburello very nicely.
Yeah, and every single time I drop to this one, there's somebody up ahead that's just had a slow down penalty. It's a 91 entry. So Stewart's going to lose a spot here to Sho Kanatake. I'm going to check the entire packet up is in behind me. So David Nash is going to start trying to go again. Morris is trying to go around the outside. So everyone's probably a little bit for track position at the moment. They're all trying to protect things. But one of the joys of having Michael Stewart on with us is that we get to play our own version of Where's Waldo. And we're going to try and spot Brett America's best way. Imola in the bottom right-hand corner. And this is another overtake that might have triggered the 91. Got a little bit of contact. Whoa!
Well held, and actually managing to keep it out of the wall for the Pacific Esports Racing 077. Stephen Banks immediately on the brakes there, but that's a bit of compromise at the start of this race that they certainly could have done without.
Yeah, so we get to play, where is the greatest racetrack in the world? It's Imola. It's on that graphic there somewhere. And it'll be around the Italian circuits, wherever they are. So they tend to be lumped together.
It's it's roughly in the middle, above the G. You see Monza, you see Imola. It's around about where Hockenheim and Red Bull Ring are. It's an excellent little poster to have there. I should get myself one of those. Fastest lap now goes to Jake O'Reilly. Vermilion starting to tune up the pace a little bit here. And there's going to be a move coming up the inside here. Michael Stewart going to try and get back past Sho Kanatake here on the run into Tamburello. The slipstream, the exit from Rivazza, right there with them. And look who's right with them now. It is the doing okay by Lobs number 1, Griffin Gardner at the wheel, and he's made himself almost a third of the way through this field.
Well, he's got a good cut this way through, isn't he? he is actually past the third place in the field. So we've got 34 entries here today. So, you know, he's driving extremely well. So put the head down, keep moving, see what happens.
Indeed. It's a long race yet to come, and it's looking pretty overcast out there at the moment. Track temperature sitting at 23 degrees Celsius. Quite a cool track by V8SCOPS standards, but still doesn't stop them from overshooting the braking zone a little bit here. 13 positions up for Griffin Gardner, the most in the field.
Just picked off Michael Stewart for another one.
Oh, and it looks like our first drive-through penalty of the race. That's the Vermilion Esports Zydeco entry with that contact with Stephen Banks coming into Tamarello. So the 04, the 043 is going to have to make their way through the pit lane post-haste. Well, Gardner has cleared them in 20th position. Now he sets his sights on Joe Mahoney as it's all going off behind. Oh, lordy. Ravatsa, always fun for contact. Looks like there's going to be a little more on the exit here. Here comes Rob Crisdale. The 808. He does it across the line. You don't put four cars occupying the same piece of racetrack down into turn two.
It's going to be really, really difficult to find where to blend back into who's going to get that nose ahead. And still contact on the run in here. We saw it get ugly a couple laps ago. Get ugly, it did again.
Lockhart Brownlee getting sent off the track there. Crisdale maybe a little optimistic on the brakes. They're both compromised in skill, but it almost has a chance of getting past. Oh man, Crisdale is flinging it into every braking zone there in the blue and black Frog League juiced racing car.
I think what happened there is that he's elbowed Brownlee off at turn 1 and 2, and then he sort of tried to redirect. He knows that Lockhart Brownlee had a slowdown penalty to serve, and he felt that he probably forced the issue there, so he was trying to make sure that Brownlee kept the position after serving the slowdown penalty to try and keep him out of the stewards office. So instead, let's just check that pack up. Shades of Whincup, McLaughlin, and Tender.
Yeah, potentially. We'll see it again here on the SuitSpeed.com replay. Crisdale was alongside, but I think just flinging it a bit too hard into the corner there went out into Brownlee on the exit of the corner as they set up for two. And then, well, he tried his best to stay behind, but he was being pressured by Skillbeck. There was a tiny bit of contact there into the Villeneuve chicane. Meanwhile, back up the front, Andrew Gilliam holding on to the lead, but it looks like Leonage is starting to come back at him. He's taken almost 2/10 out on this lap.
Yeah, now the tricky part from Rehan Leonage, right? Because you've got to remember from these sorts of positions, a little bit different to the car he was driving at Bathurst 1000 Logitech Series a couple of weeks ago, where he was the secondary driver. It was all just about soaking it all in. He's the primary driver now, so he's the driver with all the talent, all the speed. So do you go and do you have a crack at Andrew Gilliam here? And alternatively, do you try and save some fuel? Do you try and save some time? When do you think that you're best in terms of the run? And it looks like he's really hanging on to this all that well. So theoretically, if an opportunity presents itself to youngster, I think he's got to have a crack. But I would recommend saving a little bit. And you've got to remember, Brady Myers is sitting there right in behind those guys. Myers will be saving. Right? Myers will not be pressing on. He'll just be casually sitting by, letting the wisdom and experience run all his way.
Yeah, cool, calm and calculated. That seems to be the Trans-Tasman way. Meanwhile, it's the opposite of all of that for Connor Nixon, who's being harassed here by Andrew Dyson and Michael Angus, who were just trading positions a few moments ago. This quartet of Mustangs chasing down Lewis Greathead and Kenneth Latta, who are starting to break away a little bit. See what they can do coming into Variante Alta. It's all about the exit here. Try and straighten up the car as soon as you can and avoid getting too much wheel spin across that slippery AstroTurf. And now you think about the exit from Rivatsa. Are you able to get the power down and avoid that wheel spin, that dreaded wheel spin, because you've got a huge long front straight to come where your rival just needs the tiniest advantage to slipstream past you.
Did you notice from Connor's perspective as well how much headling goes in? I actually have never really watched footage of myself driving around. Strangely enough, I'm looking at Connor and going, yeah, I think I probably lean into the corner quite a lot as well.
Yeah, I think I do a little bit as well. I tend to keep my head a bit straighter than most, but yeah, you can't resist leaning into the corners a little bit. It's surely got some sort of psychological advantage, maybe a couple of tenths a lap, maybe. We'll have to...
remember as a kid motocross racing growing up, always coming back to the pits with a really, really dry mouth. Apparently I used to ride around, it's occasionally dirt in my gob as well, but apparently my jaw just used to hang open all the time.
Yeah, when I'm concentrating, sometimes that can happen too, particularly at the end of a long stint in an endurance race. Well, there's going to be some long stints happening, I'm sure, in this one. It's certainly no Bathurst 1000, but it's still a great effort to get to the end of one of these. And remember, the minimum amount of laps you have to complete is 34. So we're unsure exactly how the teams will be employing their strategy when they're going to put their other drivers in. I would presume for, I suppose, the teams up the front, they want to try and keep their primary drivers in there as long as possible.
Yeah, I don't know how many of these guys are actually primary drivers though. I mean, you've got the benefit of James Scott, who is primary driver. I get the feeling Taliantich and Briggs in those two separate cars are actually secondary drivers. They're not necessarily primary drivers. So we do have a little bit of a mix of strategies. I'm really curious to see the pace differential from Andrew Dyson to Darren Lobb, because that will keep an eye on things. Did you actually know that Darren Lobb is a Can-Am champion from South Africa?
I was not aware of that.
Yeah. Neither was I. I sat down for a 90-minute podcast and the things you learn about that guy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Love that. Fantastic stuff. There's such a depth and a breadth of experience both in the real and virtual world in this series. Gardner has experienced a championship victory last season. Now he's experienced moving up to 16th from the back of the field. Interesting decision by that car to not qualify, and I wonder why exactly they did that. Potentially some data gathering for the 1000 for the rest of the guys at Lobbs Esports. Certainly helped them for Sandown as well. Ty Delaney was the target dispatched. Now we'll see the Fishy Motorsports 2 car and Team Jinx Shifters 208 finding their way forward a little bit further.
I'm going to be honest, I think they're just out here for some fun, right? Championship prospects, it's decided effectively. It's going to take disaster for James Scott for him to fall back through the standings. So screw it, why not? Sunday, have a challenge, start from the back, do something different. Why not? Because, you know, like you said, Griffin Gardner's defending champion in terms of the series. I don't think he has a lot to prove anymore. I think sometimes you walk into these sorts of events with a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, and I think that was last year for Griff. You know, a lot out there to prove, a lot out there to earn. He earned it all, and he's a driver that, you know, a lot of people used to speak about as being really aggressive, really abrasive. They didn't necessarily like his driving style. Well, he's come full circle on that, and now this is just all about the fun, about the driving, about the, you know, the enjoying of an endurance race. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. It's the experience, the fun, that is the main reason why we do sim racing in the first place. Well, this is the pack just up ahead of Griffin now, having made his way past David Kirby in the Fishy Motorsports number 307. And he's got a bit of clear air ahead of him. All of these guys might be slowing each other up a little bit. Ben Christensen, Michael Angus, Connor Nixon, Lewis Greathead and Andrew Dyson, the inverse order of that battle there. And it goes a little bit further forward to Blackburn and Latta in 8th and 9th. See how much Blackburn holds up Latta here, because it seems like it's been a solid stint here for the Race on Oscar. The number 13, you know, a bit slow starting, but I think now that they're in the rhythm, now the tyres are up to temperature, now that everything is as it should be for that car, might be able to hold on to this position.
Yeah, who knows? And the other side of the coin is, don't forget Sam Blacklock as well, who had to go through the pit lane after serving a drive-through penalty. Yeah. Was off the tail end of the pack. He's now catching them at a host of knots and still pulling some time out of a couple of cars ahead of him. So there's some overtakes for him to start making, and Lockhart Brownlee just locked a big old break just up ahead of him. So a little bit of teammate assistance is coming his way, because I get the feeling that one won't be fought too terribly hard.
No, certainly. Well, the 125, Lockhart Brownlee already been sent off the track once, trying his best to work his way forward. Meanwhile, here's Nixon trying to build things up a little more in his pursuit of Lewis Greathead. It is Vermilion Esports versus Orbit Drop Bear. And it looks like Dyson has managed to leave them behind. He's caught right up to Latta and Blackburn now. So, 3-car pack at the front of this for 8th spot. It is a Commodore versus many Mustangs.
The old manufacturer battles always coming into things. I was actually just having this conversation. I think everyone sort of agrees. You know, we've been talking to a lot of different people about what is it that you do and don't like about Gen 2 versus Gen 3, and I think for a lot of people they just said this lack of attachment to the brands is such a big part of it. You know, we're in terms of our sim racing sport, we're about to lose Holden from the mix. It just it's bittersweet because it's a send off for a brand that was built and manufactured here and became an icon. This will be it. I'm sorry. This is the end of the path, and yeah, so many big moments, so many opportunities, and thanks for the memories. Unfortunately for the big red line.
Yeah, at the very least in the top category. I'm sure V8SCOPS supports V8s. Are still going to be using the Gen 2 cars. They'll be moving on from the VF Commodore and FG Falcon next year when Gen 3 comes in. So you'll still be seeing a Holden Commodore out there, just not in the main game.
No, what they should do, what iRacing should do, is give it ABS and traction control and make it into a GT3.
Yeah.
That way we'll never lose it.
Yep, I agree. I mean, pretty similar pace. I mean, balance of performance is easy, right? Oh, okay. A little bit of a problem there for Kenneth Latta. Got into the back of Blackburn, and that allowed Dyson through. The door opened for the number 41, and that is a freebie.
Yeah. Get your head down, get yourself back in order. I like the fact that my podcast is hanging out in the YouTube chat. And, I assume it's Simon Mazzoni. But it's, hey, Mez, how you doing?
Good to see Mez is still in and around here.
Mez is like a weed. You just can't get rid of him.
Yeah, he tends to grow in substandard soil, I suppose.
Slides through the cracks and keeps himself relevant.
Jay asking if Mez thrives in manure. Well, don't all plants?
Oh no! Oh no! You're getting bleeped out the next podcast we do, Jay.
Oh dear. Well, that's another position there for Andrew Dyson. Set up the slipstream lovely there on Tyler Blackburn, and a nice clean pass. That car's up 5 spots now. Most positions gained in the top 14. I was going to say top 15, but then I saw that Griffin Gardner's in 15th, up 19 places. That steady rise for the number 1 is continuing as we are just over a 10th of the way through this race, and Griffin's about to come up on this pack. This could be a metaphorical brick wall that that car faces now, because these guys are looking keen to battle in the first stint.
Yeah, everyone's sorting out the elbows out, just trying to shuffle and sort themselves out. But remember, like we said, a couple of these guys are not necessarily primary drivers. A couple of these guys are secondary drivers. You're seeing the primary drivers on the game at the moment, and that's the big thing. Are they going to lose it in the next stint? That's what it's about. It's about making sure that you strategize yourself, you put the best driver in at the right time. And the big reminder, what is the critical lap numbers for these guys today? Both drivers must complete a minimum of 34 laps to score points. It's a big long old day for me, so I said, hey, new idea, we call the race at 68 laps. Cool, let's all go home. Everyone does 34 laps, job done. That's, apparently we've got to do a 500 kilometer race here, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to an early finish personally. It's been a very long day for the both of us, as well as Jay. Jay yawning, agreed in the background there. Well, dear.
All three of us are going to be absolutely stuffed, I think, at the end of this one. So
Yeah. You know, a delusional broadcast by the end is practically guaranteed. I'm sure the conversation will turn to food at some point, as it always does. But for now, the discussion should stay on the battle for 21st. Ben Morris here trying to hold off the Race on Oz Mustang here. And Joe Mahoney taking the wheel of the 91 and off the circuit for Ben Morris. 2 positions lost there. David Nash bringing the 801 simracing Commodore up into a freebie position right there. And you know, that's one of the corners where you're practically guaranteed to see that happen. Villeneuve, it's so easy to overshoot the braking zone because you're having to negotiate a corner while you're slowing down. And you'll definitely run off into the gravel trap at some point. It's only a short straight between Villeneuve and Tosa, but it can make all the difference.
there's an incident that's just happened that's going to be investigated too. I'm just going to go back and listen to which one that was, but
Colangelo.
oh,
That was not ideal there into Acaminerale. Oceani locking up the front right on her way to what was decidedly not an apex, but will be able to recover and continue on. I mean, that's the main thing, you know, you can make mistakes in an enduro like this and it's not going to completely ruin your race. There's still a long way left to go, but no one told Tyler Blackburn and Connor Nixon they are fighting hard. And in fact, that JTIT race on Oscar starting to drop back a little further now, and they have got the reigning champion just a couple of cars behind them.
yeah, update as well. That incident I was talking about was ordered to be redressed. That was Ken Latta making contact with Tyler Blackburn. So that's now been redressed, and Latta trying to do it strategically so that he doesn't lose a place to Connor Nixon as well. He's done very, very well to get that job done now.
Hey, he's going to be almost immediately back on the attack. And this is how it happened. It was down at Rivazza. And Latta going for the inside here, but just not enough overlap to really justify the side-by-side there. And there was a little bump out of the way. Race control almost immediately on that to call for Latta to redress the position.
Good call. Good call. No penalty. Effectively, no penalty issued. Just line them up, have another crack, do it cleanly this time. Effectively. Here's the thing about redresses. Everyone sits here and has their own different opinion on them. A redress is so much better than a penalty. Could you imagine seeing a 5 or 10 second penalties for that? So, and that's Connor Nixon just using the brake lights to just tell Griffin Gardner, hey, not interested in the fight.
Yeah, going to try and follow him through potentially. Maybe Griffin will be able to make a hole through which Nixon can pass. Meanwhile, Mike Taliancic, 6th place, chasing down Adam Briggs here. That Synergy number 34 has had a pretty good run so far, up 3 spots. See what Taliancic can do to find his way past his teammate for these Enduros.
I don't know if you're keeping your finger on the pulse, but out on YouTube around there is a little bit of a debate about what's the correct next steps for this series. As Gardner gets down the inside.
Yeah.
But I love this, because this is both sides of a great argument going on, right? Is, do we race at Australian racetracks, or do we race at tracks they never get to go to? And both opinions are correct. Both opinions have valid statements about them, and this is why we love supercars. This is why we go racing, is because this is our soccer, this is our football, this is every code of football. I'm not just talking AFL, I'm not just talking NRL, I'm talking every code of football here. We're all passionate race fans. We all have thoughts and we all have opinions. I don't think either direction is wrong. I think both are right. You know what the best part is? Both opinions make for more racing, and that's what we love up here.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of racing, Griffin Gardner trying to find his way past Tyler Blackburn, but unsuccessful down at Ravazza. Will probably be able to get it done into Tamburello, considering the pace he's got. Yeah, my opinion is I like a mix of Australian and international tracks. I know that there's more Australian venues and New Zealand venues as well, with Pukekohe coming to iRacing in the future, but I think there's so many international tracks out there that are surprisingly good for these cars. I mean, Road America is the obvious answer, right? Watkins Glen as well. Love seeing V8s race at Watkins. Imola has turned out to be a really good track for V8s as well. You know, there's certain tracks that don't work. You know, we tried racing at the old Indianapolis road course a few years ago, and that was 100% the most boring race I have ever had the displeasure of being in the comms box for. But, you know, you learn, you take that feedback into account, you see how the racing plays out. I think tracks like this, like Imola, lend themselves very well to V8 racing, so I'm up for having them still on the calendar.
When's the Indianapolis 500 coming to V8 Supercars is my other question. But no, like I would really like to see some more of the oval road courses like Homestead Miami. I think the road course there is actually really unique in the way that it's presented. There's not many road courses like that go into the ovals that create some good racing, but hey, there's something different, right? You know, I love Imola is one of those tracks that I really love, and I'm going to bang on this drum until the cows come home and until I get what I want. iRacing, you damn well better scan Sepang ASAP. I'm sorry.
Yes.
It is the big thing. Could you imagine these? You know what I love about Sepang? It's great for open wheel racing. It's great for touring car racing. It would be phenomenal for... Could you imagine if the Gen 3 cars went there in real life? I think the racing would really be epic.
Oh yeah, I agree. Sepang is a fantastic circuit, one of Herman Tilke's best designs, and it lends itself very well to all kinds of racing, as you say. You know, if I saw V8s racing at Sepang before I leave this mortal coil, then I'd be a very happy man. You know, there's the Singapore street circuit, yeah. Yes, and speaking of street circuits, and actually, we'll leave that discussion alone, because there's a trade for position here up the front. Brady Myers has worked his way into second versus Rayan Leonage, and it looks like it was done on the run out of Tosa. Now, was this a problem for Leonage? Too much wheel spin? Oh, maybe a slowdown. Yeah, slowdown. Maybe took too much curb at Villeneuve.
Or, you know, there's the wise old horse teaching the young kid a trick or two. But, go on. Well, what track do the viewers... We've got 500 kilometers here to talk a whole bunch of things. We can at least get another 10 laps before we start talking about fooding, is what I'm trying to do with this next topic.
Yes, we're just trying to stave off the inevitable at this point, aren't we?
Does pineapple... No, I mean...
No. Please don't.
What circuit isn't on iRacing yet, and that hasn't been announced that's being scanned, would you like? I'll offer up... I've already offered up Sepang. I think the Chinese Grand Prix circuit will also be a really good one. Brno.
Oh yeah, Brno in the Czech Republic. MotoGP, FIA GT, World Touring Cars. Yeah. And Jay has offered up the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez.
I believe Mexico that one's been announced, circuit. So that doesn't count. What? Oh!
Okay. So it hasn't been announced, but it is rumored because NASCAR's going there.
Look, if iRacing comes banging on my door and wants to please explain, I'm not answering any questions. You heard it here first. V8SCOPS is where the iRacing rumor mill comes today.
Yes, apparently. We've had a suggestion of Knockhill from Isaac Edwards. I mean, Knockhill, I think as far as European circuits go, Knockhill is the closest to some of the tracks that V8s race at in the real world. But, yeah, I don't know. Knockhill for me bit too tight and twisty for even these cars. I mean, don't get me wrong, the race would be entertaining, but I don't think the drivers would be too happy afterwards.
Can we just get somebody to give us an on-board lap of maybe some AI racing or something from Cadwell Park? I know it's completely and utterly unfeasible, and we would never, ever see it, but it's just one of those things where I kind of like to see some door-to-door racing. Just do an entire lap at Cadwell Park on a V8 supercar at speed, side by side.
Yeah, I think...
Abu Dhabi. That's a brilliant call.
Yeah, well, you know, and Abu Dhabi and Shanghai, they have real-world backing. You know, the Real World Series raced at Shanghai in 2005, and in the early 2010s they raced at Abu Dhabi, so there's a big chance for that. Replay here of the number 91 race on Oscar being passed by the Phase 4 Mustang. Oh, yeah, a little bit of contact there and a spin for the 91. Oh no, and that looked like it involved
801's David Nash.
Yeah, David Nash as well. Oh dear, that's not ideal at all. Race Control currently investigating that one. The drama is starting to build out on track as we continue this discussion of what we'd like to see. I think what we're going to see is potentially a fight back for second place here between Myers and Leonage. Rayhan's started to come back on Brady, and Andrew Gilliam's just driving away from him right now.
Yep, but it's a little bit of patience, but yeah, I love the debate that comes up because you see the passions of the fans, right? So thank you everyone at home that chipped in on that little bit of a stuff. It gave us a really, really good opportunity to look at some stuff. I did hear some things about Aiden Kale on the regular. I think this might be what this was.
Yeah, pass at Piratella and a little bit deep, shuffling the Vermilion car out wide.
It's difficult because I'm sitting here and going, what other series are there from right around the world? We have TTM, and I mean, they sort of got a lot of theirs come our way in terms of we just got the Saxon ring, so that's an iconic place. When a lot of the German tracks are really been covered. I'm disappointed that we didn't get the old Hockenheim ring when we did get Hockenheim, but reasonable racetrack overtake going on at the moment.
Oh, okay, a little bit of a tap there. It looks like, I think that was Nixon being sent wide there as Blackburn fought back. And it looks like we have pit stops beginning here. It looks like the Jinx Shifters 208 has come into the lane. Aaron Gilbert bringing that one in. And for the time being, looks as though he'll be staying in the car. Still waiting a bit, I think, for everyone else to make their way into the lane. A stint here, I would say, is anywhere from 24 to 27 laps, probably. Gilbert, of course, staying in the car. And we'll see how this works out for them towards the end.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I think they're just looking for a little bit of a benefit. Here we go. So I really, really like, there's a few good ones in this one that's coming away from Ben Faulkner. iRacing should do a Middle East trip. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain and Qatar. Bahrain would be a really interesting circuit to get a lot of the different cars and combinations. It does have a couple of different layouts there to use as well, which I think is really, really interesting. And the Dubai Autodrome. I really, really love Dubai because it's actually got some challenging elements to its circuit. But I think Dubai is probably one of the underrated tracks that I think the supercar would go really, really well with because it leans on the tyre quite a lot in both directions for long. It's sort of the thing about Dubai that I really, really love. Again, multiple different layouts, and it really punishes a car that is weak in one particular aspect. You have a sector at Dubai that you can't, you're just going to have to say, okay, sector 1, we're not setting the car up for that, but we're going to nail the rest of the track there, which I love. You know?
Yeah, I agree with Dubai Autodrome. You know, I've driven that track in other sims, and it seems like a track that would really suit the V8s. And under review, that contact we saw between Vermilion and the number 6 at turn 8. which we caught on the replay. Not much else happening at the moment, just everyone getting into the rhythm of this race, preparing for their first pit stops. Luke Rosella asking what's with the Tilkedrome fascination in here. You know, there's a few Tilkedromes. Look, and I think we're past the point now where Tilkedromes can be considered new. You know, like Sepang first race was in 1998. That's how old my brother is. You know, that's. Yeah, we're past the point where the traditional Tilkedromes in the mid-2000s can be considered those new tracks that everyone's still trying to figure out an opinion on, I think. But Aiden is actually very good point. Thruxton and Croft, those UK circuits, man, they are fantastic in British touring cars. Can you imagine Thruxton in a V8? That would be incredible.
I'm sorry, I'm just gonna have to step away just for a couple moments. Just give me a few.
All good. No worries. There's more pit stops are on the cards here. ANZ Motorsports, Ben Christensen bringing in the number 6 and bringing Henry King into it. So King Henry taking the wheel of that Mustang. And, well, I think now we're going to start seeing a bit more of a raft of pit stops. We are past the 22 lap mark now, 80 laps remaining in the race. Have a look at this battle here. David Kirby, Ty Delaney and Blake Delaney, well, all Fishy Motorsports. So you can certainly say there's no team orders here. They are fighting hard with each other just as much as they are everybody else out on track. They've got quite a few cars up ahead of them that they could catch up to if they play their cards correctly. So then, the battle for the lead still falling in the favour of Doing OK by Lobs. Over a second ahead of Brady Myers. Rehan Leonage is starting to catch up to him for second place, and I don't know if we're going to be seeing a move from Rehan before the pit stop, so maybe he's just going to back off a bit and just decide to try and get the position in the pit lane. Maybe undercut the Trans-Tasman 22, get back into second place. Change for position as well between Taliancic and Briggs. Up into the top 5 for the 143. Jordan Ross, watching from the sidelines, will be very happy with that.
Teammates working together. Nice and casually, in the right area on the track, and they're just sort of stuck there out on their own at the moment. Yeah, you can just see a little bit of swapping their team cars back and forth as, you know, whatever's needed, what's most appropriate for the situation. They're in a great little spot at the moment. Ooh,
Darren Lobb, the South African. Yeah, that's a good point. Pakisa Freeway. I've seen a map of that racetrack. I've seen satellite imagery of it. Actually got quite an interesting layout for a road circuit of combined oval road course.
That's sick. More ovals from outside of the US is always good. If there's more tracks that the European NASCAR go to, I know that might perk up the year's iRacing as well. But yeah, I do go back to the point of the Mexican GP. I really, really like the Mexico City circuit, so I'm very, very keen. And remember, we're kickstarting the rumor. We have no confirmation of what's going on, but the fact that NASCAR's going there is always a big point in the right direction. That'll be a great track to go racing at. Could you imagine setting up a car? You would probably set up a V8 supercar there to have no wing, go very, very quick in a straight line, and just hope that you can keep everyone off you through the twisty bits.
Yeah, indeed. I'd be very interested to see in the sort of turns 4 and 5 chicane at Mexico City, just how much they vault over the curbs there. Obviously, a lot of mechanical grip required through that section of the circuit. As far as New Zealand circuits go, we've had Taupo suggested, and yeah, I think Taupo would be good. But what about Hampton Downs?
Oh, I love Hampton Downs.
Hampton Downs is magnificent.
It just keeps folding back on itself, doesn't it? That's, you know, They made they had a paddock somewhere, and they were like, how can we get the most racetrack out of this little place that we possibly can? And they nailed it.
Yeah, plenty of variety of corners there as well. A couple of pretty fast corners in the midst of those hairpins that go up and down the hills.
New Zealand needs a lot more love.
Oh, yeah. Agreed. And, well, if you were wondering, that's Whakisa Freeway. That is the road circuit. Very, very Michigan-like in that the road course actually goes outside the bounds of the oval, similar to also New Hampshire Motor Speedway, but a beautiful flowing layout that I think could really suit these cars.
Now, the fun fact is, I think it's time for our food chat. Well, as we bring these circuits up, we've got to pair them with a food. What food would be best eaten in each of these circuits?
Imola, I reckon good old caprese salad.
Yeah.
But of course, if you were watching on Friday, you'd remember myself and David Haynes had a big old talk about the restaurant that's inside this circuit, which apparently has quite an extensive and good-looking pizza menu. So, yeah, some Neapolitan-style pizza wouldn't go astray as more cars come into the pits from the back half of the field. That's the Orbit Drop Air Mercury car, Sam Blacklock, bringing that car in for its first scheduled pit stop.
I wonder if Brett Loxhead and Chris Coxton will end up going over there.
Please no. Yeah, I'm sure they'd knock out a pie or two, maybe three.
Look, the reference to Friday night's broadcast came up, and it was just...
Yeah, of course, it had to happen. I basically walked right into that one.
Any mention of me and IndyCar in the same sentence teased me up for Does everyone sitting along at home want to watch my most embarrassing moment on iRacing? My single most embarrassing moment of all time.
I'm sure we'll be seeing it shortly. We'll get it at some point, apparently. It's going to come when you're least expecting it, apparently, Scott. So just wait for that.
Yeah, so Imola, I don't know if we need Imola with food. I think it might be fine wine. In fact, you want to make it a triple shot? That might be the way to go.
Yeah, agreed. Nice glass of red on your way to watching cars come into Tamburello. Speaking of Tamburello, they're about to come up to it. The number 1 car has been steadily working its way forward and is now in the top 10. This has been a magnificent opening stint from Griffin Gardner. And we have Andrew Dyson and Thomas Hinds about to come together here. Hinsey looking good on the exit of Tamburello here. And that's weird. I've been seeing that a little bit there from Dyson. I've seen that before, the little flash of the brake lights there. Is his brake sticking, or is he doing the real-life driver thing where they give the brake a little tap to make sure there's pressure in the hydraulic lines?
I've been informed that I must hype up how much we love Coda in this. Can we burn that place down, please? Can we seriously take as much gasoline as we possibly can, and instead of burning it down on track, burn down the track? It'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah. No, remember, Kota has a lot of history. Was in this championship at least, it hosted the first ever round of V8SCOPS back in 2014. The contact between the number 13 and the 168 there at turn 2 apparently judged netcode contact by race control. So a little bit of an escape there for the so-called aggressor involved in that incident.
What fruit do you all eat whilst racing as well? What fruit? I tend to not eat a bunch of fruit whilst I race. It tends to be sugar-related bits and pieces. But I had the trail mix out this morning, or this afternoon actually.
Yeah, if you want my answer, it's I don't eat fruit while racing, and I actually don't eat enough fruit, full stop. I'm worried about my vitamin deficiency, to be completely honest with you. But I do have some pears out in the kitchen that I'll have a little nibble at later on.
What's sunlight? Son who?
Son who? Jay's son's in the other room, apparently. Justin Wallace taking over the number 13 car from Tyler Blackburn, and now we have a big raft of pit stops. Brown Lee, and David Nash all in the lane here. We'll have to wait and see if there's any other driver changes here. Tim Mulford in the 196. Looks like Brownlee's going to be staying in the 125. Joe Mahoney bringing the number 91 BE Electrical Race on Oz car in. Justin Wallace's first laps in this race after that pit stop is completed. See how he does, because Blackburn was sliding back a little bit off the race start. Wallace just emerging in the midst of a race that is steadily boiling away.
We're just keeping an eye on a few different bits and pieces at the moment, but everything's slowly trending away. And there's a lot of talk at least about street circuits, or at least localized street circuits to a whole bunch of different areas. Here comes the 143 machine. Is it time to put Jordan Tino Ross in behind the wheel of that car? I'm going to work hard to make the Valentino Rossi nickname a thing for Jordan, so he's in trouble.
Yeah, keep chipping away at that as the field chips away at their first pit stops. Taliancic, for the time being, looks like might be staying in the car. I think the pit stop's just about complete for them. Fishy have all come in on the same lap as well. Looks like maybe a driver change in the 307 there, Paul Warwick. Aside from that, still waiting on our top cars to make their way in. The lead has extended further for Andrew Gilliam in the 088, and I think Myers and Leonage are just waiting now for their opportunity to get some fresh rubber on and have another run at him. Remember, there's always the possibility of a safety car as well.
Yeah, and Imola is one of those tracks where, too much curve, too much down. There's a lot of aggressive downshifts around here, a lot of braking zones as well, so it's always lurking not too far away. James Scott's going to continue on for another lap, so he's going to get at least 28 laps on this first stint. And I think the bulk of our front three up. They will continue on. Jake O'Reilly's through the 4-spot moment. And I've got a track coming for you guys that I think is worth the look. And I know that you like this place too. And you'd never seen this place before up until a couple of months ago, and somebody told you needed to commentate GT3 racing from this circuit. And Reese, your relationship with this track, the rest is history. She's a beautiful little circuit. Has a place on it called Monkey Hill, because there are monkeys alongside the racetrack running up and down there.
And it goes up a hill. Sometimes they get onto the track too. Looks like we have some pit stops happening in the middle of the top 10. The Vermilion 117, Jacob O'Reilly. Thomas Hinz has brought the 209 in and handed it over to Brett Loxton. Adam Briggs still in the 34. We see that the 41, the 07, and the number 1 are in too. And Dylan Rudd's taken over the number 1 car from Griffin Gardner as our leaders are experiencing a bit of traffic here. If there's any time for them to come into the pits, it's now.
Yeah, maybe it's it's not easy, but at the moment they're not being influenced. Maybe Andrew Gilliam's starting to be held up, so he will be the first one to think about. But the other two can keep chipping away at it. We said, 27 laps? And we're on 28 at the moment, so they're about maximum distance as it currently stands. And a bunch of cars now in and out. Briggs is in and out. Just to split up the strategy just a little bit between the 143 and the 34, and you can just see that one lap worth of undercut for Taliancic. Nice.
Leader in.
Yep, there we go.
Oh, and Myers is going to follow him in. Leonage stays out. Oh, I think that was a bit of a Mexican standoff there between Myers and Leonage, who was going to pit first. Maybe Leonage has lost his opportunity there.
Nope, I think he needs to run the alternate strategy. I don't think he can pit the same lap. So, yeah, Mexican standoff. What do they say in F1? What's the terminology for that one? I know they use one. Box opposite.
Box opposite. Yeah. All right, that's probably what Phoenix Racing Team will go for now, as drive-through penalty for the number 91, and that's the contact that we saw at Tamburello with the Phase 4 and 801 cars. No surprise to see that a penalty was in order for that incident. So now we only have a few cars left to take their pit stop here, and it's going to be only one after these two make their way in. Troy Stone Street and Jamie Christensen into the lane, and that just leaves Rehan Leonage and the Phoenix Racing Team HRS car. But you see that the tyres are probably not where he wants them to be, washing deep in Acqua Minerale, and a slight bit of oversteer on the exit as he tried to recover that. So yeah, I think you know, in order to preserve pace and ease of driving, pit now. But how much longer can you go on a stint?
Yeah, I think in terms of fuel, they're at the maximum I expect to see him down the lane. It's like the fact that he's the only driver that's gone that one extra lap over everyone else says, yep, absolutely, end of the fuel tank on this one. So I'm actually really curious to see what they do with this car. Do they do a swap and throw Pereira in and behind the wheel? Could be a potential.
Yeah, there's been a driver change in the number 22. Meanwhile, Josh Anderson taking over from Brady Myers, former Aussie Racing Cars champion in the real world is Josh, and very active on the sim. Incredibly quick guy. So look forward to seeing how now Dylan Pereira will be able to fare against him. Pereira taking over the 79 from Leonage. This is certainly getting dropped right into the boiling pot for Mr. Pereira.
Well, he's got work to do. I mean, what I would be saying if I'm his teammate, Rehan jumps out of the car, he says, hey mate, I handed it over to you in the lead. I always like throwing my teammates in the deep end there.
Jay's got another track for me, and he says I might like it. Yes! Mont Tremblant. That is a brilliant circuit. The dive from turn 1 down to turn 3 there to the S's is just incredible. So much elevation change there. Well, we've got a new leader. It seems that the Vermilion Esports 117 did not take as much fuel as everybody else. They were only stopped for 33.6 seconds. So Jacob O'Reilly now falls to the lead of the race.
Lead some laps, why not? You're a safety car, you're in trouble though.
Yeah, you definitely are. And sometimes it's around about this point that you start seeing safety cars become ever more of a possibility as a lot of teams bring out their starting driver and bring in the other guy who hasn't had any track time in the race yet. So there's a lot of potential for mistakes.
Something's just going on with the 168 car. Connor Nixon's just had an issue with someone. There was another message that just went through before that. I missed exactly who was actually on the radio at the time, but we got the replay captured. So
yeah, looks like a move going on here between Lewis Greathead and Aaron Gilbert up ahead, and Angus Lawford, who's just taken over the car here, coming in a bit too hot there.
I don't think he's been given much of a choice there about where he's supposed to go.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, Aaron Gilbert already spun there. So this is Greathead attempting the pass, and Gilbert turns in, gets tapped around, and then Gilbert rolls back onto the track there. And yeah, I mean, if you're in Lawford's position, what do you do? I mean, you can slow down a little bit earlier, but at the end of the day, you can only make a split-second decision.
You got to remember as well, Rivat's downhill braking zone. You're already committed to how deep you are, so literally his only option was to roll off the brake and roll around the outside. He couldn't have jammed on the brakes harder and tried to go straight. No, literally come off the brakes was his only choice there. So.
Yeah, so we'll see what race control decides about that. Maybe a penalty heading Lewis Greathead's way. Meanwhile, Dylan Rudd jumping into the number 1. They're up 27 positions now, up into 7th place. And I would say with the pace Dylan Rudd's shown over this season, Andrew Dyson might just have to watch him drive away and may have to turn his attention further back to Brett Loxton in the 209. Now, Brett's previous lap was of 1:42.7 versus a 42.5 for Dyson. So I don't know if they're going to come together very shortly. But have a look at this battle for 13th. Michael Whiting holding on to that lucky 13th position. Great head with a potential penalty hanging over his head. Trying to keep Miller, Broad, and Gilbert behind him. Goes all the way back to Paul Warwick in 20th spot.
What a pack this is, and have a look at the names, you know, that are in and amongst these guys as well. Michael, it just takes you back of a kind of like a who's who of SCOPS and V8 supercar racing over the last sort of 5 years. You know, there's so many different names in here that have been a part of the community. Think about all the races that Jamie Knight's done across his career. Michael Whiting, you know, as well. Tyson Broad, he's the guy that tries to keep annoying clips of me saved on the internet and has done a very, very successful job of doing that thus far. And yeah. Oh no, what have I done? I just didn't have to do some ideas.
Oh dear. He's still trying to keep us at bay. Dear. Jay's just chuckling evilly in the background. When is he going to drop the clip?
That was a very satisfying to hear evil chuckle. Like it wasn't menacing, it wasn't over the top, it wasn't overdone. It was just a lovely little evil chuckle. You guys at home can get to enjoy it.
Oh dear. Well,
I've sent him into raptors. You've done well. I think Jay needs a few extra hours of sleep.
Yeah. Don't we all? Don't we all? Critical lap number coming up. We're on lap 33. The drivers that have been in since the start of the race, when they finished the next lap, will have completed the minimum required distance.
So what you're saying is they can jump out of the car and go and get some sleep.
Yeah, I mean, if they can send some of that sleep my way, I'd really appreciate that. Oh, Whiting looks like having a bit of trouble there. The ANZ car of Henry King right up ahead, up 5 spots, but looks like there's going to be a bit of a three-way fight forming here. Great Head could potentially take some advantage from this. Well ahead of the other fishy car of Chris Miller behind. He's searching for a way through. It's such a difficult part of the circuit, isn't it? You're blending to the right and then to the left. You have to commit to a line, and he's committed to the outside at Tamburello and gets it done beautifully. Big oversteer moment from Henry King. Can Great Head take advantage of that down at Villeneuve? What it has done is it's compressed that pack now. Miller, Broad, and potentially Gilbert standing a chance at gaining here.
We're crawling all over each other as well, so anything could necessarily happen in the near future. Think about Valtteri Bottas versus George Williams a couple of years ago in the drying Imola. Did I just say George Williams? I meant George Russell. In the Williams. George Russell in the Williams. Oh no. Oh.
Save it for later. Oh, Jay's teasing us. Goodness me.
I've never done a more silly thing behind the steering wheel, and I never will.
I can't wait to see it. Jay asks if I don't remember it. Well, Jay, you've been working with me for a long enough time. You know I have the memory of a goldfish. So, under caution.
5 laps to go.
Oh, yeah, I think I remember that.
5 laps to go. I've never won a race on SimSpeed, and I was still making a name for myself at the time, and that is me burning fuel off in an Indy car while still on the banking. I slightly dumped the clutch out.
Yeah, that ain't smart.
Yeah.
Alright, well, there you go.
I guess I'm calling the psychologist tomorrow.
Yeah. Don't worry. We'll be. I think we'll be having some good therapy sessions. I'll be coming to the psych going. Look, I just can't get the names Lockshead and Coxton out of my head. They're swirling around. They won't leave me alone.
Yeah. That was back when I was a lot younger, and I say a lot younger. That was what 3 years ago. So I wasn't a lot younger.
A spring chicken.
I was an iRacing spring chicken, and I put a lot of work into the IndyCar, and that's probably when I was driving at my best in the IndyCar, and I wanted to win a race. I never won one on SimSpeed, and never made a name for myself, and it was my car, my day, and I think I'd driven through the field 4 times in that race to be there, and yep.
Yeah, I certainly, now I tend to remember emotions and feelings more than specific events when it comes to stuff like that. So, I remember the feeling of seeing you vault your way up through the field multiple times, only to try and cheese it at the end and get promptly melted.
But that's what you're going to do. Like, every car's got its knack, right? And in IndyCar, weight is such a critical thing because you've got a light car. Fuel weight is such a big thing. It's, every car's got their little intricacies. I don't deal so well with the ALBs in a V8 supercar. I struggle to adjust them and set myself up and adjust across the stint. That's racing, we've all got those little things. And at high-level supercar racing, you've got to be perfect with your bars. High-level IndyCar racing, you've got to be perfect with the amount of fuel you've got on board.
Yeah, indeed. Well,
this will be an interesting battle.
Yeah, certainly will. Andrew Gilliam rounding up Jake O'Reilly. The team that got themselves into P1 due to a short pit stop. Just behind them, there was a bit of a going on there. I don't know if you saw that in the background. It seems like Lewis Greathead ran deep at Variante Alta and has ultimately lost a couple of positions there to Chris Miller and Tyson Broad. Henry King still staying steadfast at the top of that pack for 13th. The times continuing to tick down for Jacob O'Reilly in the lead of this race, and looks like a few hundreds faster than Andrew Gilliam on that lap, but I get the feeling that Andy's just biding his time here.
Yeah, and he'll probably be quite happy to have somebody to save a little bit of fuel behind. They talk about when you come to this place, the difficulty of overtake is definitely up there. It's doable, but you've got to set it up, car in the right place at the right times. Right now, he's losing no time sitting right where he is and just fuel saving away right at this car, and that's the big key. So he's in a great spot. He's not getting run down at the moment. He doesn't need to put a lot of pressure on. Just needs to sit here, chill out, and tick another box.
Any little bit of fuel saved now may or may not help them down the line, depending on if a safety car comes out or not. You can see the passes on the verge of happening. Meanwhile, here's that battle.
Ooh.
The number 15, oh dear, making contact with the 208. And the number 15 of Lewis Greathead has already got a 10-second penalty over his head. That was for contact with the 208 earlier, and actually those two cars have made contact again. So race control probably not looking too kindly on the Vermilion Esports Mustang at the moment. Meanwhile, looks like the Aaron Gilbert car, the 208, has gotten a warning from race control for not holding their brakes down at Ravazza when the 168 came through earlier on. This little entertaining battle here. Jamie McKnight battling hard with Tomoyasu Inatani. And Aaron Gilbert right in the midst of all of this too. He's got Paul Warwick and Rob Crisdale for very close company too. Interesting little fight, this one. Will Inatani be able to fight back here against Jamie McKnight, a man who's done quite a bit for the iRacing V8 community.
Yeah, and over an extended period of time as well. Again, it's just like a Legends race that's really going on. You get to see guys for a long period of time, and Jacob O'Reilly didn't fight that one too hard. That's an overtake for the race lead, albeit it's not actually a battle on track that these two will be having. This might actually be Jacob O'Reilly looking to take the opportunity to flip the script. You've got a lighter car on board. He might actually take the opportunity to do some fuel saving of his own.
Meanwhile, change for the lead, and this is how it was done. Great run out of Villeneuve, and Andrew Gilliam slipping up the inside of Jacob O'Reilly at Tosa. It's one of the reasons why I love that complex so much. You get a good run off Villeneuve, you have the advantage, you have the inside for Tosa. Inatane getting back past McKnight there. And Jamie's on the back foot now, trying to keep everyone else behind him. Gilbert, Warwick and Chrisdale still right in it there. And no surprise to see that race control is now reviewing that second incident between the 208 and the 15.
Yep, keep him busy here this afternoon. Not allowed to settle, not allowed to get comfortable. Just a steady stream of incidents coming in. It hasn't been, gangbusters. There's not been a lot of argy-bargy going on. Just enough to make it a touring car race, but not too little that we're all being put to sleep in the background, which is the big key. A lot of drivers driving exceptionally well. I'm enjoying watching this in the battle pack at the moment because, again, multiple drivers, lots of opportunity.
Yeah, we're getting into the middle phase of this race now, and if you're in a battle like this, yeah, it's fun. You got a lot of opportunities to really strut your stuff out there, but it might be affecting your strategy. If you feel that you're a lot faster than the car in front of you, you're costing yourself, and no sign of a safety car thus far. So that's not going to save you if you have trouble getting past someone.
So how long did we go? The longest runs on that first run of fuel is Leonard. So he went 30 laps on the tank of fuel. So you can start to draw yourself up a little bit of a picture and go, all right, well, if we want to flip the script and we want to try the undercut strategy, the big difficulty we've got is actually going off the lead lap. And the difficulty with that right now is that Andrew Gilliam's just gone through the Variante Alta chicane. So pretty much you've got to be within the top 10 area to be able to maintain your position in the lead lap. The other thing to consider is 30 laps is the maximum distance, so 30, 60, 90. So your target lap number to get home is end of lap 42, and that's on a maximum distance run. So you're probably looking about lap 36. It gives you a little bit of freedom in terms of the strategy. 38 gives you a lot of confidence in the strategy, but, 48, my apologies. Check those numbers. 42, 46, 48, about the three numbers that I'm sort of looking at. 48 would be a relatively comfortable number for a bunch of these teams to start coming down and using the ultimate undercut strategy for some track position at the back end.
Yeah, we're only going to reach that in a couple of laps' time. Well, through we go into Variante Alta. Henry King getting back past Lewis Greathead there, and Lewis Greathead getting back past Henry King. Replay of how it was done here at Aqua Minerale. Looks like King just clipping the grass there on the way into the corner. Very easy to do. You're on the brakes, you're trying to get the car turned, but you don't want to overload the fronts. It can be very easy to understeer off into that little strip of grass that separates you from the tarmac runoff. Something that we've seen happen countless times before on this track in multiple series.
There we go, another crack. Oh, defensive line. Set up, covered. Good racing battle. So, now you got two guys that are neck and neck out on track. A little bit of side-by-side action. A little bit of defense plays offense. And the difficult factor I think that we sometimes get caught up in is that we tend to pick out and highlight specific groups. And one of the things I really, really like about racing is if you talk to anyone about one particular race that was a part of that, every different car has got a unique story about how that race progressed, particularly the endurance races. We started with our primary driver in, we were very hard, opted for a bunch of track position up early, then we backed it down in the middle of the race, we sort of stabilized. Other guys, no, we started with our slower driver in first, we went hard in the middle of the race and then sort of tried to hold on to our track position at the end. Everyone's got their own unique little bit of a story at this point in time, and you just don't get the opportunity to capture all that as a part of the race. You're going to have to pick out and weave out stories, but I think the biggest thing I like is that, for 34 cars out there, 34 different stories of how their race went.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out that we haven't had any retirements yet, which is great to see. We have the two Race on Oz cars a lap down at the moment, but aside from that, there haven't been any big race dramas here. Aside from a few spins into the gravel trap, we have yet to see a car with significant damage and with race-ending damage. To make it this far with the Imola 500 without seeing that, very nice achievement indeed. And it's going to be an extra 5 seconds of a penalty for the Vermilion 15, and I don't think they'll be very good friends with Team Jinx shifters after that one.
Yeah, I just don't see those two cars getting on whatsoever, because it's not the first time they've made contact, and I don't think it'll be the last. So
here comes Josh Anderson, occupying 4th spot, looking at 3rd. Dylan Pereira taking over from Rehan Leonage. And Pereira's lap times, certainly nothing to sneeze at. But crucially, everyone else in the top 5 is able to set times in the 1-minute 42s, mid to high. Pereira, for the time being, looks like is yet to really break into that bracket solidly. 143.1 on the previous lap for him, and 43.1 again this time around. Anderson trying to size up a move into Tamburello. No, has to stay behind, but gets very close to tapping some Morse code on the back of the 79.
I was very surprised those two cars didn't make contact. They were so close together. And I think Brady's just going to have a crack, because I think he's got to... Sorry, Josh Anderson's just got to have a crack, because he's, you know, he is saving a little bit of fuel, but ultimately his race is sort of coming apart at the seams just a little bit, and there was some position change in the first stint between these two cars, and you just might see the same amount of love applied again.
Number 6. The ANZ Motorsports car looking very embattled now, as King unfortunately losing it through Variante Alta. Just got all crossed up over the first curb and had to let the Orbit Drop Bear car go. Same for the Phoenix Racing Team car. Tomoyasu Inatani. Back to live pictures, and we are on lap 42, which is one of those laps that that you said may very well be one of the critical ones here, Scott. So we'll keep our eyes peeled all the way down through this field.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I don't expect pit stops to start until the back end of the 40s. Would be the absolute earliest. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone who's going to be doing like a half stint or something like that at this point in the race anyway. If a safety car comes out, then maybe. But, yeah, I think the overall chance of a safety car is not that high at the moment as things stand.
Yeah, I think we're just sort of just passively sitting around and just watching the race unfold at the moment. It's going to be one of those afternoons where it's just a slow, dry afternoon.
Yeah. Oh, a couple of other incidents just happening in that P18 kind of area. Henry King losing position to Aaron Gilbert in the Team Jinx Shifters car. And just behind them, it looked like a big old overshoot of Variante Alta for Rob Crisdale, who's fallen off the back of that pack, still sitting in 22nd position. A little bit of lap traffic for our 2nd and 3rd place running cars, or 3rd and 4th, sorry. This is the Race on Oz number 91. Already a lap down. This is what happened to Crisdale. Just got on the brakes a bit too late, pinch it on the way in and cut across the grass. Thank goodness there is a bit of runoff there to gather things up, but yeah, Crisdale not having the best of times out there, struggling a little for consistency. Meanwhile, battle for the top 10. Justin Wallace taking over the 13 from Tyler Blackburn has had a pretty solid race since jumping into the car. He's got some pressure now from Jamie Dyke, who took over from Kenneth Latter after the first stint.
Yeah, so like we said, some driver swaps, not a whole bunch of driver swaps going on in the first stint. Did just notice Kurt Stenberg's actually jumped in, driver of V8SCOPS Legend. And he's here to do some spotting today, so not racing for himself. Casual Sunday afternoon.
Hopefully we see him at the 1000.
Well, there's your Stenny check-in for the day, Reese. He's not even driving.
Stenny check complete. Well, there's a little bit of... Oh, there was a slight bit of drama for our third and fourth cars. Benjamin Smith taking his line as he is entitled to do. But it seems both Pereira and Anderson probably wanted to give him the hurry up a little bit. Hasn't really affected them all that much, but Anderson is now a little bit further behind Pereira than he was. We'll keep our eyes on this fight, though, coming down into Villeneuve. And Wallace keep Jamie Dyke behind him. They're pretty close on lap times, so one small mistake will make all of the difference here.
Yeah, again, critical phase for these guys is racing. They need to make up some time, but they've been tied together for a very, very long time. They're just drifting, not really catching the guys ahead, not really losing the guys behind, so just sort of stuck where they are out on track. And I don't know, it looks like Jamie Dyke's got a little bit more pace on the long run at the moment.
Yeah. Keep an eye on these two. Last position in the top 10. The fastest lap still sitting with the number 1. Doing okay by Lobs. And Dylan's been doing quite well in that car. Doesn't seem to be jetting away too much from Adam Briggs. If anything, I think Dylan Rudd's just in mid-race, just tick off the laps mode as things stand. Not seeing much from the number 1 who's made their way from the back of the field. What happened here? It was side by side through Tosa. Nice little bit of racing between the 801 car and one of the Phoenix Racing Team machines. This is the kind of racing that I love to see around Imola. One car's all over the back of another, multiple lines possible, and over-unders wherever you look.
It's Tim Mulford and David Nash going toe-to-toe. And the Phoenix Racing entry and the 801 Sim Racing entry, respectively. I was gonna say, I didn't actually see an extra driver in the 801 Sim Racing entry to start off with the race. So David Nash has been doing this on his own thus far, and Matthew Sculls finally joined him. So he finally has somebody along to help him out.
Good to see. Well, Nash is going to have quite a bit more to contend with here as Mulford trying around the outside of the entry to Villeneuve.
Has the car stopped in the exit of this next corner, so this might be just good to stay with these guys just for a few moments.
Yeah, it's Philip Dalton in the Race on Oz Mustang. That car was running last spot. And the drivers are being warned about it. See if he requests a tow. It looked like a fairly hefty incident there for Dalton.
He does not have an engine.
No, he doesn't. He's not moving.
The light displayed on the rear end of that car, so I'm fairly certain there's no engine. And I get the feeling we're about to get a safety car.
Oh, here we go. This could be it. Wait on the call from race control, and the race strategy will come alive. Is there going to be anyone up the front who decides to jump into the lane preemptively? Looking back at that incident for Philip Dalton, he did exactly what I'd been talking about earlier. Just got over the AstroTurf on the exit of Tosa, and the car slipped up. And have a look at that. In the midfield, at least, we've got plenty of cars making their way in. Orbit Drop Bear, Fishy, Frog Leak Juiced Racing. Balin Stewart Foundation car in the lane as well. And driver change in the Orbit Drop Bear Mars car. Dylan Walker taking over from Lockhart Brownlee. Connor Nixon jumping back in the 168. Rob Crisell for the time being staying in, and it looks like our leaders are going to make the jump in as well. They are anticipating a safety car. Yeah, all right, yeah, it has been called, sorry. I was not looking at the in-sim chat or the production feed at that point. I was more focused on my timing screen and pit stop times, but man, this is not ideal for Race on Oz. Philip Dalton entering Tosa on the apex, across the curb, and then whoop, round it goes. Didn't seem to get on the brakes particularly hard there.
I think he's just had a rough day at the office. It's a quick way for the day to be over, I suppose. So safety car's just waiting for everyone to come trundling down the lane at the moment, pick up the corrected leader.
There we go. Safety car out ahead of the 088. And James Scott has jumped in to that leading car. Dylan Pereira staying in the number 79, Anderson staying in the 22.
Wave by is happening right now, which is actually really, really important. So the tricky part about being where you are on the racing circuit is taking your pit stops at this bits and pieces. If you've got a longer stop to take and you haven't got any track position, as we've seen those couple cars get waved by quite quickly, you actually go a lap down because this one was right in the middle. And think about what we're talking about in terms of critical lap numbers before race as well. This safety car has come at a perfect period for it to be a critical lap number. So staying out nets you track position. You're going to have to make the stop anyway, so you may as well come in. So everyone's on the bog standard strategy here.
Yeah, looks like it. Still going to be 55 laps remaining in the race. At the conclusion of this lap, which is, basically 2 stints to the end. 2 somewhat quicker stints by a couple of laps than what we were expecting. Everything reset, now 28 positions up for the Doing OK by Lobs number 1. Basically the only... Go on.
And critically for them, what were you talking about earlier? They need a safety car to pull them back into contention? What did they just get?
Yeah, exactly. So working out all right for them so far. The only cars that still occupy the same positions they started are our top 2. 12th place Fishy Motorsports 1 and the Team Jinx Shifters 208, as well as Matthew Doust in the Wheelie Bins Mayhem Republic 091 down in 30th place. As far as positions gained, I mean, the prize definitely goes to the number 1 car, but Seth Brown in the 043 assisting that car to a solid run up this field.
And day done, unfortunately, for Philip Dalton. It's, it was out there, and tough day. Really, really tough day. A couple of drivers up and down the field will be quite happy. A lot of work has been done behind the wheel of that 215 car as well. Remember, what happened all the way back at lap 1? Well, Sam Blacklock cut his way back through the field, handed it over to Tyson Broad. Tyson Broad kept cutting his way back through the field. Guess what? Opportunity to stick themselves back inside the top 10 back where they started as well.
Yeah, looking good there for them. Only a few positions away. So everyone is now on the same strategy once again. From this point, with the safety car, we presume, coming in at the end of this lap. That's going to be 50. It's going to be 54 laps to go when they get to the line. So the longest we've seen a stint go is 30 laps, as we saw from Leonage in the first stint. So you bolt those 2 numbers together and you get basically, I'd say, 2 stints of 27 laps is the easiest on the brain. But there's a bit of wiggle room there for an undercut.
Interestingly enough, we've got a few drivers and teams that have not done a driver swap at the other day, and they have to remember 34 laps. So when have they got to come in? So it'll be 98 minus 30, 68. So they've got 20 laps before they have to do a driver swap.
Yeah, and the 4 cars yet to do that swap are the number 41, the 808, the 800, and the 919. So Andrew Dyson has done a solid job of keeping the Circulators Incorporated car in the top 10. The 808, of course, is Rob Crisdale and the Frog League Juice Racing Mustang down in 24th place. Car 800 is the 801 Sim Racing car of David Nash. And the 919 is the Balin Stewart Foundation car, Michael Stewart, with the Racetracks of the World poster on his wall.
It's a great poster, that one. Thoroughly enjoy that. The best part about Thursday nights is playing Where's Waldo with that poster in the background.
Yeah, entertaining little diversion, that. But it's confirmed by race control the safety car will be in this lap. I do love that diagram. It really shows the scale of a lot of these tracks as well. You know, all of those tracks are encased within the Isle of Man Tourist Trophy Circuit, and you can see the big blobs being the Nürburgring and the Circuit de la Sarthe. But just seeing how tiny a lot of the world's racetracks are compared to those, it really puts things into perspective.
But I didn't even know that the outside of that track was actually the Isle of Man TT. So, yeah, so thank you for that. Again, continue enlightening me. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't ever done so, please do a commentary stream with Reese Gardner. You will learn things.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that just consumes information like a sponge and dispenses it at random times, so you never know, you might get lucky. Let's see who gets lucky on the restart here as the safety car's pulled away from the field, and James Scott is already on the power, coming out of Rivazza 2. And away we go again. Green flag flies. Back to racing in the Imola 500, round 11 of V8SCOPS for 2024. Dylan Pereira now on fresh tyres and seeing how hard he can fight with the race lead within his sights. Gets in the slipstream of Scott. Nice run down the straight. Just needs to be careful to woe it up for Tamburello. Single file restart here, and not seeing much of a trace of big moves in the field, but I do see the number 15 going off, Aidan Cale in the Vermilion Esports Mustang. Looks like got a bit crossed up in the middle of Tamburello alongside Connor Nixon in the 168.
Gotta get aggressive. Restart's your best opportunity to try and cut your way back through the field, and again, and 117 cars starting to play their way back forward into this one. James Scott's going to be doing his first racing laps of the weekend, and here's the replay from down at turn 1.
Yep, big move up the inside there from the number 1. Getting themselves into the top 5. And they'll likely be able to make it up 30 positions in a couple of laps, and there's what happened to the Vermilion Esports car. Of course, the number 15 has been through the wars. Aidan Cale taking over that car from Lewis Greathead up the inside of Connor Nixon, and just looks like on the way through the right-hander, it's such a difficult corner to go side by side through. You know, you switch directions so quickly, and you don't want to try and compromise yourself, but you do still need to leave space for the car that you're battling with. Ultimately, a few more positions lost for the very embattled number 15. They are down 12 spots from where they started. That has to sting for them, having to get a couple of penalties from race control and a couple of on-track incidents besides.
Ooh, something's just happened to either Blake or Ty Delaney, who's behind the wheel of the 08 car at the moment. Actually, it's Chris Miller. My apologies. Chris Miller pairing with Ty Delaney.
Oh, no! Oh, that's McKnight almost getting into his fellow Fishy car. Well, he and Ty Delaney will be breathing a sigh of relief that didn't turn into something worse. It looks like the car's undamaged, but man, a little bit of drama on this restart. We'll see exactly what happened to them here. Pass happening there. That's the Vermilion Esports Dynaco car making the pass, and then McKnight comes straight in. I think maybe caught out by the rapid closing speed there.
Yep. Just missed the braking marker, it looks like, so. But there was an additional incident. And there's another issue going on for the 15 car. Oh boy.
As we see that there's been a change for P2, Trans-Tasman Racing finds himself in second place, and Pereira might start dropping a bit down the order here with Rattray White and Dylan Rudd hungry for position behind him. And yeah, what exactly happened to the 15? Well, it was the exit of Tosa, making the move up the inside of Michael Stewart here in the Bale and Stewart Foundation car, but then Stewart coming back onto the racetrack just tapped him around.
I don't necessarily think those two cars would have got together, unfortunately. You can understand why the 15 car feels aggrieved and worth a look, but our angles not necessarily showing us too much, but
yeah, sometimes latency is the great differentiator. Well, Zach Rattray White driving with Jake O'Reilly, as the overlays dictate. Incident under review for that incident between the 08 and the 168. We caught a little bit earlier. On lap 49.
Are you doing your best Anchorman impersonations there? Reading exactly what's on the teleprompter?
Yes, I do like to do that. There's great potential for comedy there. I don't know how many people are laughing though. I know Jay isn't. We're hearing that Jay fixed it already once this broadcast, but the issue just keeps appearing. Sim speed and overlay issues. Name more iconic duo. I'll wait.
Endurance racing and food chats.
Yes, that is a solid contender.
No, put it back. Okay. We're getting updates. Apparently it got worse before it got better.
Yeah, righto.
Do you know I always call the amazing tricky triangle from Oval Racing. It's not Pocono, it's no.
Yeah, that's how I felt when driving the road course for my Super Serious track guide of it. Oh, a little bit deep in Tosa there for Dylan Pereira. Allows Zach Rattray White alongside him, and that is Vermilion Esports up into the podium paying positions once again. This 117 has had a pretty good run of things so far. Took a bit of a shorter fuel drop on that first pit stop, which got him up into lead contention, and now they're just running solidly. Oh, a little bit of an issue there for Joshua Anderson. Have to be careful.
And then Dylan Rudd's in this battle and competitive. And do you notice what happened immediately as soon as Rudd got tagged into this battle? James Scott, they're not willing to mess around with pace at the front end of the field anymore. They're getting aggressive. They want to disappear down the road because they think they have to. Dylan Rudd.
Yeah. There he goes. The inside into fourth place, and that is up 30 places for Griffin Gardner and Dylan Rudd. And yeah, I mean, I was going to mention it. As soon as the green flag flew, James Scott was right on it. He was jetting away from the field, and he ended up getting the fastest lap. I think 2 laps in a row there. Ever controlled and calm across the curbs, as we've come to expect from James Scott. Further back, here's Orbit Drop Bear versus Phoenix Racing Team, and Vermilion right in there as well. 168, the embattled 168, finding their way past Tomoyasu Inatani, still at the wheel of the Phoenix number 86.
Doing a phenomenal job as well for those guys, and Well, to be honest with you, the 86 car, I did have some technical gremlins a little bit earlier on for Inotani. Had some issues and had to restart their sim, but got it all back together. Settled back down and got their eyes forward. Meantime, riding on board with Connor Nixon.
Yep, just changing his own physical position in the seat a little bit down the straight up to Piratella. Looking as cool, calm and collected as ever. But then there's that brief heart attack moment across the curbs there when you don't know if the car's necessarily going to snap when it comes back down on all four wheels. These cars love vaulting their way over curbs. I think Variante Alta is one of the best chicanes to watch V8s on iRacing at.
I'd wholeheartedly agree with that. There's nowhere else on the platform where we get the opportunity to really watch the cars handle the curbs, and I think you're right, the suspension and the way that it just sort of leans up and over. Phenomenal in terms of the way that they squat under acceleration, they pitch forward, back, rock side to side. All three of the major chicanes around this track really demonstrate what the car is capable of doing. And I think that's the big key. Everyone will sit down and say Imola's not necessarily a great racetrack, but if you have a look in terms of the car's capabilities and what it does do well, it is the best showcase of that we have access to. So don't ever stop coming here. But then again, we'll get Adelaide in the near future, and that'll change again.
Yeah, there is that old chestnut as well. Battle for 30th place here. It looked like Pavlovich had a bit of a poor run through Tamburello there, and there's a spin behind. Mahoney gets spun by Aiden Kale. And the Vermilion number 15 has one more incident to notch onto their list of what has been very hard in the 500. Kale trying up the inside here at Tosa, but I think it might have been a bit late for Mahoney's tastes.
Yep. Race control, I'll look at that one and get back to us with a resolution. And is that Rattray White serving slowdown penalty, which will be from Variante Alta if it is?
Oh, he's got damage. Something has gone very wrong there for the Vermilion 117. I'm going back and checking now, and I'm not seeing it on this lap. Oh, I am actually. It was at Tosa. He tried to make the move on Anderson. It looked like Josh ran...
Oh, Anderson's out of position as well.
Yeah. Anderson's been sent a bit further back thanks to that incident. So at Tosa, it looked like Anderson probably turned in a bit later than Rattray White was expecting, and Zach went for the inside at the hairpin and they just made contact. So that's a pretty significant change there. It has promoted Lobs Esports to a 1-2 in this field. This is how it happened. Gets on the brakes, goes at the inside when the door opens, but it was only half open. So both of those cars now with a bit of damage and out of position to where they should be.
Is it the second touch straightens him out that causes the damage? But he seems okay. He seems back up to speed, and something else to consider is, has he actually redressed that position, which isn't half bad shot either.
Yeah, that might have been what we saw when Rattray White was slow down the straight. Probably getting that one done. Well, now Vermilion, they briefly reached the highs of the podium. Now they have to do a bit more work besides. 47 laps remaining. And, honestly, I don't know what they can possibly do from here to get back into the podium spots. I mean, they'll get their repairs done at the next pit stop, I would presume, if they deem it necessary, but they'll need another safety car to try and get their way back up there. Move up the inside that ultimately doesn't work for Connor Nixon. Tried to pass Michael Whiting, and Seth Brown says thank you very much. And meanwhile, here's Tomoyasu Inatane. On the outside, of Villeneuve, that can't be good. He lets Nixon go. A little bit of a lock up there for Connor. This battle will continue down to Tosa.
Inatani really had an opportunity there to potentially be on the aggress and backed out of that one. So I think he's got a right to feel a little bit aggrieved, and I think he should have been able to take that spot away from Nixon. Pinched another break, so he's in trouble at the moment, that front left.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, does it? He just doesn't seem very comfortable in that car at the moment. He's carrying the brakes a long way past the corner. He isn't exiting Akunarali as straight as some of the other cars are.
And he's just going to keep plucking it again and again and again at the moment. And Ravazza, unloaded side of the car, that left front, could be another opportunity as they head downhill.
Yeah, certainly could be. See what the behavior of the Mustang is like. Tomoyasu making up some big time there in the mid-corner. Ultimately, the exit is with Connor Nixon, at least on the initial acceleration phase, but I think Inatane might have a go at him at Tamburello if he can get a little bit closer.
I just don't think he's got the speed. So I think this is legitimate. I think he just sort of looked at Nixon and went, yeah, probably not worth fighting. Have a look at the two ahead of them, though. I think they just banged doors.
Oh, yeah, they certainly did. Michael Whiting and Seth Brown. Seth saw the door open for that incident with the 168 last lap. And now might see the door open versus the fishy Mustang here, but a little bit crossed up over the curb. That's going to give the chance here to Nixon to try it. Tosa, no, backs out of it. Meanwhile, trade for position. Josh Anderson's just gotten back up into 4th spot, past Jordan Ross, I believe, at Tosa.
Oh, Nixon's blocking. Nixon's getting blocked again. To Seth Brown blocking him all the way. This will tell us exactly what just happened.
Yeah, so the dive up the inside. Jordan saw Josh coming. Decided, yeah, all right, mate, you can have that one.
Remember, Seth and Connor, old teammates. Don't get along so well these days.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see what kind of moves Connor will be able to put on down at the bottom of the hill here. Beautiful place to watch the race from. There's a particular balcony in the town just on the outside of the circuit that has a great view of this braking zone. But aside from that, got to wait for the run down to Tamburello to really make your move again. Run as far as you can to the inside of the barrier, shorten the geometric fastest line down the start-finish stretch, and the lights are being flashed here for Seth Brown. I'm not too sure what that's about. I'm just trying to distract Michael Whiting.
I'm pretty sure Connor Nixon just got in the back of him too.
Yeah, it looked a little intense there between those two. He did give him a tiny little tap just at the turn-in point. I think Nixon's overworking the fronts now. Not much he'll be able to do. This is how close it got. Is there a bump? Oh, yeah, just a little.
Not quite enough, though, to unsettle it. That was the big kick. So it's all... that's fine. That's all play on. Remember Kostecki and Van Gisbergen rubbing panels on each other at Wanneroo.
Yeah, exactly. A little bit of contact is part and parcel of touring car racing. It's when it extends into a big incident that it starts to become a problem. For now, it has not been. And looks like Seth might have a good run here, potentially. A go at Ravazza on Michael Whiting. Man, he's very late on the brakes there. Can he pull it up in time? Whiting holds the outside. Sometimes it's not the worst place to be. But Seth is just ahead and over the AstroTurf. Whiting doesn't quite get the exit he needs, but now Connor Nixon is boxed in. He's going to give his former teammate a big old touch as they come across the start-finish line. That's the view from Connor Nixon. Now, does he commit to an inside move, or will there be a defense here from Seth? Just get off the brakes. Nice and early. Oh, there we go. Oh, and that's just created a big concertina for everyone behind. Seth Brown spun around. I mean, every time you see cars enter Tamburello side by side, you know there's a greater than normal chance of that happening.
Well, it was just brewing for a couple of laps, and Chris Coxhead's now tracked back down Tomiyasu Inotani. Now, he'll be all over him as well. Just an adjust of everything there for corners is a big thing. You know, incidents happen, shake it off, reset, go again.
Just sent a bit wide on the curb, and I mean, you've got to respect the fact that there's another car alongside you there. But sometimes you vault into the corner just hoping you'll be able to clear them by the time you have to turn in for the right-hander, and I think that might have been what was going through Seth Brown's mind at that time.
It was the second turtle. The first turtle in that corner, the middle one on the apex, is fine to touch, but it's the second turtle that he picked up that's sliding across the corner, and that's the critical one. You can't touch that second turtle. There's one turtle in each combination through those chicanes that is permissible, and there's one that's not. It just unsettles the car too much. Interesting.
The 077 for blocking Peter Pavlovich. Remember, we saw Pavlovich earlier having trouble on the exit of Tamburello. He was a bit slow. Not too sure what the deal is there. Well, if we find that incident, we'll grab it for you on the replay. For now, though, 15-second penalty for the 808 of Rob Crisdale. Contact under safety car with the 125 orbit drop bear machine. Further things going on here as the fight is still on for third spot. Anderson catching right back up to Pereira, but it seems he'll be able to make his way past. So this is the reason for the penalty for Pavlovich, it seems. So it's after they pass the car that's crashed here. The safety car would have been called by this point, and no, it hadn't been called at this point.
Yeah, I was about to say, because otherwise they wouldn't call it for blocking.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I got the penalties confused. Right then. So Pacific Esports Racing with a slap on the wrist from race control. 10 seconds of time, which they can serve at the pit stop, if so required. Otherwise, it'll be added to the end of their overall race time. Meanwhile, this is the penalty for contact under safety car from Rob Crisdale. Ah, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, Crisdale, I think, just not aware of the cue over the crest of the hill. And that would have resulted in a fair bit of damage to the rear right for the 125.
Yeah, that's a weird one. Not one you sit there and go, why did that happen? It looks like they're actually okay. They're not carrying any damage to the right rear corner of that car, so...
Lucky escape, maybe.
Yeah, I'm just trying to check out what happened to that, weight in terms of their front end. And they actually, I think, look okay as well. So I think it's just a lucky escape, all things considered.
Looks like David Nash was soloing this race, or if he had a teammate, they couldn't make it, because about 2.5 minutes ago, Nash pulled it into the pit lane and has not come out. It's disconnected from the server. That makes it 2 retirements from this race so far.
Okay.
This, meanwhile, is an overtake for Seth Brown, apparently.
Sets this one up, gets the run.
Yeah, yielded, I think, a little by the fishy car.
So I'm just having a quick look at the 801 sim racing car, and what it looks like's happened is that Nash is the only driver registered for that race. I wonder whether or not Matt Scholes, because he's the second listed driver, they've had an issue with trying to register him as a driver, and I think that's been confirmed by our race control team as well. Obviously, it was just having a quick look at the way that they were listed in the server, and that's exactly how they appear, is that Nash is not registered as a driver, and that means effectively they're not going to be able to finish the race. So I went, yep, okay, sweet, no worries. Yep.
Yeah. That's a shame there for that team. And yeah, that's an awful lot of damage to the front of the Synergy 143. It looks fairly wedged in the direction of the front right. I wonder what's happened to Jordan Ross. This is not ideal at all for the car running in 12th position. I'm going to rewind a little bit and see if that happened. Apparently, it's a big one. Replay coming. And it happened with the Vermilion 117, a car that has already had plenty of dramas in the last few laps here. So they were running well in the top 5. Trying around the outside was Rattray White, and this is something we've seen so many times before, Mr. Rankin. Car gets spun when there's a car trying to get around there outside and into the barrier for Jordan Ross.
Just unloaded, and now they're out of position as well. Dropped down to 12th spot, and like you said, running in a great spot, as were the 117 car. How good's the run from Dyson though at the moment? And I'm going to say it, I'm a big fan of Darren Long. It's just his attitude, the way he talks. He has a bit of fun, knows how to have a good laugh, but he also loves to have a look at the angle as we get back in. This is about external view. What I'm looking for is where were they relative to the track. That nearly says to me, in the game of millimeters, Ross tracked out a touch from that angle.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me as well, because if you're Rattray White, you don't want to be running all the way across the AstroTurf there. You've gotten alongside, you are entitled to some space. Unfortunately, just running out of road.
Yeah, so interesting one there, and again, what you got to remember from these guys is that they're running on. There's no malice in there. That's just hard touring car racing, right? And
yeah.
We're talking about the Indy broadcast that you just before. You know, they're doing 360 kilometers an hour. You've got to set up your moves well in advance of when you're actually going to try and pull them off. And when you're not millimeter perfect in most cars, and you have to be millimeter perfect in most cars, that's not good.
That's the 125 getting past the 307 nicely in the background. Phase 4 versus Frog Leap Juiced. Phase 4 getting it done at Tosa. 2 nice moves further back in the field. That's it was Dylan Walker getting past Paul Warwick and Ben Morris getting past Rob Grisdale in the battle for ultimately 19th position. Look who's back on the back of this pack. Seth Brown. He's closing in on these guys after his spin-off earlier. He's looking quite quick when he's on it, isn't he? It's just.
I think he is really quicker. I think you're right. He's just the difficulty is in getting the overtake done. And Nixon's not looking to get this overtake done. He's just looking to bump draft.
Yeah, for the time being. And taking advantage is going to be Chris Coxhead.
Oh boy!
3 wide on the way into turn 2. Easy does it. Whiting decides, no thank you.
Oh.
And, this is going to get tight. Big recovery there from Chris Coxhead.
Is that Britt Lockstead? Or Chris Cret Coxton?
Cret Lockstead. I don't know. In any case, he's fallen a little bit behind. And this is allowing Connor Nixon to drive away from these guys. Look at how much marbles there are on the exit of Tosa. No wonder we're starting to see cars have traction issues on the exit of that corner. There's basically no grip out there if you're on the outside. But for Coxhead, managing to recover from that little coming together in turn 1. Michael Whiting might stand a chance of getting past, but not down here at Aqua Minerale. This isn't traditionally a place you see passing happen. Lane, meanwhile, for Scott McHugh, who's taken over the Balin Stewart Foundation 919.
No, we're not allowed to look at that car. I am not allowed to look at that car, ever. So there is a curse that hangs over Scott McEwen. And ever since SimSpeed started covering and I started covering the V8 veterans, that man has found his way into wrecks he should have had no part in.
Oh, pit stop for the 41 as well. And that's a driver change. Andrew Dyson finally hands it over to Darren Lobb.
I'm keen to see how Lobb is going. This should be really, really good to see. This car's back. Oh, nearly take two.
Oh. Ultimately, getting the pass done cleanly on Michael Whiting. And considering how much Coxhead and Nixon are likely going to battle, Seth Brown's going to make his way right up to these guys, and it'll be hello, we meet again for Seth Brown and Connor Nixon.
Oh boy. Somebody get the fireworks ready.
All depends on how Chris Coxhead does in his pursuit of Nixon there. Chris obviously has had some great form in V8SCOPS this season in the conventional solo rounds, coming back around about Winton earlier on in the season and driving very well in the top 10 pretty much every round since.
We've got an update for our cricket watching fans, and there's one of them in the commentary box that's going to enjoy this news, so although we're probably already aware. New Zealand have won a test match in India for the first time since 1988.
Wow. That is that's a lot of years. Can you tell I'm the one guy in the comms box who isn't a cricket fan?
That's 4 years older than I am. So yeah, that's a long period of time. My record is now over there.
Well, congratulations to New Zealand.
Eventually they'll get a racetrack on iRacing. Might take them 32 years.
Well, it's taken the current lap for Chris Coxhead to find his way past Connor Nixon there. Car 208.
Here we go.
Steadily finding its way up through this field, and here comes Seth Brown.
I wonder whether or not there might have been a headlight flash mixed in with all that.
You never know. Nice and wide on the entry into Tosa. It's an interesting hairpin, is Tosa. You know, conventional wisdom is, start all the way on the outside and turn in, but the way that corner is profiled and the corners before it too, you can actually stick to the inside all the way around, and it's a solid defensive position to take.
There's a couple of hairpins like that. Turn one at Sepang active.
A little bit different here from Jay. Have a look at that sunlight. That is very nice indeed. iRacing's lighting and graphics have come a very long way in the last few years.
Certainly they have, let alone the reflections of the puddles, which we might finally get an opportunity to look at with a V8 Supercar next year.
Yeah, maybe, finally. I would expect when Gen 3 comes, they will be rain-enabled, side by side between Brown and Nixon out of Rivatsa, and it's looking a little bit claustrophobic there coming up against the pit wall as we check back in with Synergy number 34. This is the battle right here. Seth Brown getting on the brakes, but Nixon brakes about the same time, and he's going to try and force the issue again here. Oh man, Seth Brown, he's going to be so mad behind the wheel, isn't he? Every time he's trying to block Tomoyasu Inatani. I put myself in Seth Brown's position every time I come up on that car, 168, something happens, slithering up the inside of Michael Whiting on the marbles, a little bit of contact on the exit. Tell you what, Connor Nixon, I don't know if the rear bumper and side panels of that Mustang are made out of white dwarf material or what, but man, that Seth Brown is just no match for them.
He's looking at adamantium V8 Supercar shell at this point in time, but and Whiting's rear tyres are starting to really go off. He's had enough. I'm very, very interested to see. I'm just having a quick look at Darren Lobb's first laps in a supercar on the sim in some time, and they are quite good. So he is having a great day out at the office, an opportunity for him to get back behind the wheel. I actually would have really loved an opportunity to have a quick chat with him before he got behind the wheel, but guess what? We are coming up on lap 68 next time by. All of those who haven't done driver swaps, which is why that number 41 car was in the lane.
Yeah, exactly. We are one lap away from that critical number. Mistake at the exit of Variante Alta for Ewan Baker. Yeah, looked like it was just fired sideways a little bit as it came off the curb, and he made a little bit of a correction there to allow Thomas Hims to make his way past in the 209. That 209 is almost back up to the position it started in. Currently running 6th behind the Vermilion 117.
Oh,
I think I've just seen what you've seen. So the contact with Anderson at Tosa earlier has resulted in a penalty of 5 seconds at 117.
so that's not the contact we're just seeing with the 143 machine, which we're all sitting here and going, yeah, that's about racing. No, that's the earlier contact with the 22 machine that put them both tumble down the order, and a redress was noted, hence only 5 seconds as a result of that one. I'm just taking a quick look. Remember our cars that we're talking about that hadn't done their pit stop? 41, 808, 800, and 919. Well, let's tickle through those. We've just seen Dyson tickle through the lane, do a swap over to his South African counterpart. He's now handed over to Darren Lobb. Check that one off the list. This will be Lobb now to the end of the race. Car number 808, however, still kicking on. They're on the critical lap number. Poynton's not in the server. I think Mark Poynton has had a software crash. I've seen him tickle in and out of the server a couple times trying to get in. I think he's DQ. I think this car's done for the day.
Yeah.
Co-driver can't get in.
Yeah, Chrisdale will have to bring it into the lane here, but he's not. He's going to continue another lap from here. Man. That's heartbreaking for them. We're on course for a solid finish.
800 as well is done for the day. Remember that was the issue with not being able to get into the car, which I think has been up to Matthew Skulls registering as a crew chief for that car, not as a driver. And then finally, the other car, 919, Scott McCune's behind the wheel of that car now. So they've checked that off. Everyone in this race that can go to the end, barring the 808 car, has now done a driver swap.
Right, so, yeah, everyone still running except for the Frog Leap Juice Racing Blue Machine are safe. And another replay of, well, yeah, these two are just becoming a feature of the track now, aren't they? Yet another attempt at a pass, and this time it works for Seth Brown.
Well, Connor Nixon loses 2 and nearly 3 as a result. In fact, does lose 3.
Yeah, wow. This goes to show how, one little difference in car positioning on the way into Tamburello can really define your place in a battle. But I think Seth Brown will be glad to be rid of that fight. Been trying to do it for a number of laps now. This is Nixon's view of it. Yeah, it was a big oversteer on the exit of turn 1. He was struggling on the power there.
All the way through. It was through 1, through 2, through 3, through 4. The whole way through that combination. Just wiggle, 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 wiggle. Never settled down on the rear end of the car.
One more quick replay of... Oh! Lord, Nixon just tapping the rear of the Phoenix Racing Team car. Tell you what, I think there's quite a few drivers here who've gotten enough taps that they'll be feeling a bit shell-shocked at the end of this one. There's been so many minor incidents in this race that have almost ballooned into something bigger.
Yeah. No, we're just waiting for an update because I'm pretty sure 68 takes us through, plus 4 is 72, 72 plus 30 is 102, so that's 34 laps. That's minimum lap numbers, so correct me if I'm wrong, but we've only got 33 laps left to run, which means, yeah, I'm pretty sure Isdale is now past the end.
Yeah. Well, the debate will be going on for a bit whether or not to take that 808 into the pits or let him go to the end. Alright, so Jay's saying the Battle for 13th has that many cars in it now on that graphic, but have a look at this. There's a few more cars to be involved in this, less than 2 seconds between each car. 11 cars separated by 9 seconds. This is a solid train.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, let's go past the timing tower.
Very nice.
I'm wondering if when Jay gets bored and extremely tired that he just starts flicking through all the scenic little bit shots and bits and pieces that he's got to look at. Because we've seen a lot of scenic work. He thoroughly enjoys himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, it certainly does. Jay asking a question to which I say yes. I would very much like a view of that garden grandstand. There is a point on this circuit, Scott, I believe at the exit of Acqua Minerale, that is actually someone's garden shed. Just beyond it, it's a tiny little grandstand through which you can just see the cars blasting by.
Quaint is the perfect, I think, term for those sorts of things.
Here we go. There's the garden shed with 2 ladders in it. There's the underpass under the circuit. And if you tour around here, there's that grandstand. The house. Of course, Imola originally started as a public road circuit, so there's still plenty of actual houses around the circuit. And there's a little makeshift grandstand. If you want to watch your own little piece of the Autodromo Enzo Edino Ferrari, just sit here and you can get this kind of view looking at the racetrack just past Acqua Minerale, cars running up the hill.
Guess what? Race leader's just about to come through into that shot. That's 30th place coming through up the corner. And that's James Scott that's just come through at the bottom of the hill now. I've never looked backwards down the straight, by the way. There's a picturesque little view. Gives you a real sense of how much the rise out of the bottom of Acqua Minerale really is.
Yeah. From inside the car, it often doesn't seem like that much of a rise, but really it is. You know, this track follows the terrain beautifully, and you know, like I said, it was originally a public road circuit. It's been through quite a few changes and is now solidly a permanent racetrack, but this whole stretch here from Rivazza all the way down to Tosa was originally a
that's where I'm sitting.
Public road. Yep, that's where I'm sitting.
Yeah, you can find me as well. I'm having fun.
Indeed. And where is it? Hello! Right across the start-finish straight from the pits. The surroundings of this circuit are fantastic.
It really is. It's lovely, picturesque. Think about all the Grand Prix that have gone through this area in years gone by as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Through pretty much every iteration of this track.
It's just a picturesque climb through the Italian countryside, and that's the best part about it, isn't it? You could go to a race meeting, and then you walk off the track and you're just relaxing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. One of the many reasons why I love this circuit. Pit stop for the 215 Orbit Drop Bear Mercury car. Sam Blacklock has taken the car back over from Tyson Broad. And of course, Imola's history does have a few dark patches. This right here is the site where Ayrton Senna had his fatal crash in 1994. That's where his monument is, and iRacing has rendered the flowers and the flags and the fence.
That's just off the exit of Tamburello chicane.
Yeah.
Couple incidents just being looked at by race control at the moment. Contacts on about 50 node, which I believe was the first time the 043 and 025 cars came together. And further action. And 143 and 117 no further action, which is, as we all suggested up here, it's just racing, just tight racing. Two cars that have left about all they possibly could have left, fighting over the same piece of real estate that wouldn't have translated into an incident in the real world. And unfortunately, some people will sit there and say what it is, but you know, and be disappointed with the contact model. So that I say, bar humbug. It's racing. We have a platform whereby we can sit down and we can challenge. Everyone gets disappointed when we see this thing failing, but mate, we could have nothing. We could have nothing to race on, and yet we have something.
Yeah, certainly could. Problem for Aidan Kale and the Vermilion number 15. Just gets back going in time for the WKMP car to arrive on the scene. Another replay of this pack, which has consistently provided some entertainment. That is Inatane going way too deep into Tamburello, and frankly, I'm amazed that he was able to keep that car on the straight and narrow. I mean, across the curb, yes, but anyone else, that would have been a spin. If it was me, that would have been a spin.
Oh, absolutely. I committed myself to going straight on there rather than trying to take to the curbs. I would have just bailed out. But he tried to make it, and he did make it. A lot of risk taken in that one, though, and survived to tell the story.
As have the majority of drivers in this field, as the final pit stops of the day are upon us. We've had Crisdale take that car's final pit stop, and it looks like he's going to continue to the end here, but yeah, he's been called to retire from race control, so we'll say goodbye to the Frog Leap Juice Racing 808. Meanwhile, here's the number 13 and the 269 fighting. Tyler Blackburn versus Jamie Dyke, and Tyler holding on to the position there on the exit of Tamburello. And look who's pitted together there. Seth Brown and Connor Nixon. We're still going to see some more stuff from them towards the end, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, that one's not going to go away anytime soon. But the 043 car has picked up some pace and driven their way through. So
Thomas Hinds leading the battle for 6th place here. Ewan Baker trying his best to get one extra position for that car, which is up one spot. Would have been up 2 were it not for the doing okay by Lobs number 1, which is still running solidly in 2nd, up 32 places. Pit lane coming alive again. Lawford, Christensen, Pavlovich and Walker all in the lane here, and it looks like our leader is in as well. Both Lobs eSports cars into the lane. And just like they did on the first stint, looks like Phoenix Racing Team is going to go a lap longer here. And I would expect Pereira to hand the car back to Leonage at this point.
yep, potentially. I do like looking at Blake Warblows. Just like how cool, calm and collected he is. You never see this guy ruffled. So he's very calm, always very collected, or very, very put together. Generally with a bit of a blank stare or a tiny bit of a smile. A lot of emotion from Blake Warblows.
Yeah. Slightly detached, I would say, is the best description of Blake Warboys' outward appearance when he's sitting in the sim rig. But he's putting all of that effort into his driving. pit stops are completed for our leaders. It looks like Brady Myers is back in the 22, Griffin Gardner back in the number 1. And he's having a bit of an issue there at Tamburello. Rear end kicking out there. Okay, the first lap back is almost always a bit scrappy when you've been out of the car for the majority of the race.
I'm wondering whether or not the wind's swinging quite aggressively.
Yeah, I got a 1-2. What happened to him on entry here? Whoa. See that wheel work. Goodness. Just looked like he maybe had the brake bias wound a bit too far back. Don't forget, that's one thing that you need to keep track of when you're swapping drivers. Sometimes brake bias can be set a bit more forward or back by the driver you're taking over from, and it stays the same once you get in the car, and maybe you're not anticipating it.
It's good to see Brady Baldwin kicking around as well. YouTube land. Favourite wobbler. I've been really,
Everybody's
really
favourite wobbler.
Reached out and for some reason asked me to do some voice clips for an unannounced project.
Very nice.
I'm going to stick to my day job of not being a voice actor. Okay. Alright. Jay's banned from sitting in silence behind the scene. So the thing is, when you have a podcast, everyone's involved, and Nez got thrown under the bus a lot during the podcast. I get thrown under the bus out here, and no one gets to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the vast majority of Jay's words remain for our ears only. And some would say, not least Jay himself, that is better that way. Leonage back in the Phoenix Racing Team 79. Let's see if there's any recovery that he can make here. Pereira did a solid job, managed to bring the car back in one piece, and so Leonage now stands a chance of gaining a bit more if Brady Myers and Griffin Gardner fight like they are at the moment. Good run for Myers up into Piratella, but it's traditionally not a passing zone. Neither is Acqua Minerale. If anything, you might have to wait until Variante Alta or even Ravazza at the end of the lap to get it done, but that was a lot of curb on the entry there. He ran a little bit wide of that first apex. Not the conventional line.
Yeah, I'm just having a look though at the moment, and Darren Lobbs played himself into second place.
Yeah. This is good, but I believe they still need another stop.
Well, I've got... Yeah, everyone's sort of on an odd, weird sort of strategy at the moment, so... I think there's most of the cars up at the pointy end here, stopped 76, so one lap ago, they're good to go to the end, so... Problem for this car is it's a splash and dash, and I think maybe just enough fuel to cover tyres.
Yeah, just enough. They might still be able to preserve a top 10 finish from here. Top 5, maybe not as likely. Car 117, meanwhile, serving their time penalty. Zach Rattray White re-emerging from the pits a lap ago in 6th spot as Brady Myers has succeeded in getting past Griffin Gardner on the way into Villeneuve. Looked like the exit of Tamburello was where it happened. Yeah, it's interesting to see that Griffin is he's making those sort of minor errors there in the exits of a lot of these corners. He doesn't seem as comfortable as he did at the start of the race.
Your bar's not in quite the right spot, but yeah, you're right. Just overcharging and then off sequence, out of sequence, and you can just see Brady's taken 4 corners to set him up properly with the over under. But once he was there, it was done.
Yeah, just yielding on the entry into Villeneuve. Smart thing to do. Well, up to Variante Alta they come, and well, here comes Rehan Leonage. There's a lot of potential for a podium here still for Phoenix Racing Team 79. Remember, this car started on the front row. in the hands of Rehan Lienage, who put down a great time in qualifying. Now that we're in the final sort of stages of this race, and Lienage doesn't have to make another pit stop, he'll just try and run this one out to the end as best he can. Oh dear, here goes Ben Christensen. Variante Alta claiming another almost victim there. Looked to me like it was just the direction change, coming off the curb, turning the wheel the other way. The car just went whoops-a-daisy. Too much load on the fronts.
Too much speed and not enough load on the rear.
Yeah.
I think the combination, I think it was in hot, and you just see how much curb he took the first turn. That's, yeah, he's had to turn the wheel quite aggressively. They get in and try and get the line right. Big old thing about grip requires there to be contact between tyre and ground, and there was definitely not a lot of contact on the right-hand side tyres and the ground at one point there.
Yeah, certainly not. Well, Christensen will try his best to make his way back past the Phoenix car here. Sho Kanatake, back in the number 86 now. But Christensen will face another threat in the form of Michael Angus up the inside at Tosa. Oh, Christensen just defending the position there, carrying more pace around the outside. I think Angus might have dragged the brakes on the inside there to avoid running into him.
Difficult segment of the race now to navigate. In a reasonable little spot. You just keep an eye on that 41 Darren Lobb car at the moment. I'm just curious about where they're going to feed back in terms of traffic. I reckon it's probably going to be somewhere just in front of these guys, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's what it's feeling like. Look at this pack. Very solid. This is further down in the field. 18th place, currently occupied by Angus Lawford. Blake Delaney trying to chase him down here. Fellow Fishy Motorsports car, the 307 of David Kirby in tow. And they are bookended by the other Drop Bear car, Orbit Drop Bear Mars. But, oh, a bit further up, Sam Blacklock now finds himself in the midst of the fight with Jamie Christensen, who's taken over from Seth Brown. Up the inside of Villeneuve.
Oh, he ran him out of road.
Yeah. And that's what you got to do, right? You try out the inside on the entry into Villeneuve, it becomes the outside for the right-hander. And you might be able to hold on for the inside at Tosa, but that just didn't happen.
Again, another unflappable character. There is no emotion in the face of Sam Blacklock whatsoever. And 043 is calling that one into race control to have a look at.
Oh, I just caught sight of an almost disastrous moment for the lead of the race. James Scott had just made his way past Benjamin Smith, and Smith locked up into Tamburello behind him. That would have been very close to day done. Here you go. On the way down the start-finish straight, Christensen lets him go, and then, or Smith lets him go, and then there was nothing in that. No one is safe.
Oh boy.
Well, thankfully for James Scott, he's put quite a bit of distance between himself and Ben Smith now.
Interesting take. One of the reasons they think Griffin Gardner may be struggling is for some reason it looks like rear tyres may not have been changed on that car.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah, because I've noticed, you know, it's been jerking around a bit on the curbs on the exit. He just hasn't had the traction that he's needed. Yeah, Rehan Lienage is all over the back of him now. He's lost 5 seconds to Brady Myers.
I was going to say, something looks wrong in that car, right? He just didn't look the same Griffin Gardner that we know. And he's capable of running down. He's capable of matching James Scott, certainly on his day. Beating him, yeah. Also on his day, absolutely, I reckon he can. But and that early stint, he was actually quite pacey in this car and cut his way through and was matching those guys. So for him to all of a sudden fall like a rock was really odd, and I just couldn't put my finger on it. But something looked wrong in the car, so that would explain it better.
He's going to be on the defensive now for Tamburello as Leonage got a great exit coming out of Rivazza too. Will the move be completed for the number 79? Not quite. Leonage wisely backing out of that one. We've seen that kind of move go wrong so many times over the course of this race. So, once again, the 168, the 08, and the 307. There is no keeping the 168 off the airwaves today. That's the 08 fishy car making their way past him. Wait for the next one here. Potentially contact from behind as he got a great run out of Tamburello. Got the move done again at Villeneuve.
Hold on.
Quite done yet.
Oh.
Just enough space up the inside for Delaney to try and sneak up the inside. Oh man, it keeps going. Goodness me. This is crazy. I mean, the Phase 4 cars in the midst of all of this as well. Jay Brazier at the wheel of that one. Blake Warboys in the WKMP Sim Sports car has just caught up to the back of these guys as well. The 307 is ultimately going to lose the spot here coming into Variante Alta. The second drop bear car scythes up the inside at the high chicane. And then a little bit of a whoops-a-daisy on the exit there. Attempt number 2 for Rayan Leonage. Well, I think it's more attempt 1.5. He didn't even get alongside Griffin Gardner there, but you can tell the move is coming here for the 79. Oh! Oh, there we go. Oh, dear. Well, Griffin Gardner trying to defend there. And I suppose you could argue that Leonage turned in a little bit too early. Gardner got crossed up over the curb and the cars just came together from there. I wonder what race control will have to say about that.
Yeah, a fair bit to certainly have a dig through, have a look at. Being called in for a look. Covers it to the inside. A little bit of a touch, a little bit of a touch, a little bit of a setup. Yeah, look, I think he might have come across the touch too far. A little touch. You can go a little bit narrower on the approach to the second part of that chicane and get away with it. But,
yeah. Shame about that, but well, this 18th place battle, it's not showing any signs of slowing down here. It now covers 6 cars, and with 19 laps to go, still a long time for this to be sorted out. Let's be gentle on the exit of Aqua Minerale. That's a lot of curb there. Maybe a bit too much curb for Blake Delaney in the 08. Stands a chance of losing the spot to Dylan Walker. Walker, of course, very talented man on the sports car side of things, and in IndyCar as well. I know you've raced wheel to wheel against him in Fixed Indy Australia.
Good man. Very good man. Talented.
Can he find his way past these two, though? The Orbit Drop Bear 168 has been one of the most heavily featured cars in this race, and for good reason. It just seems wherever they go, action follows.
It's created a good lot of racing. I will say, for all that car has been in the wars, there's been very little contact made throughout it. I think that's the big thing, right? It's been... Oh, hang on, we might have a safety car. But this might have been the savior that they were looking for out of the 41 machine.
Oh dear.
Like a blown engine. I think there's a downshifter.
Yeah. That feels like what's happened there to the 077, the Pacific Esports racing car. Stephen Banks and Peter Pavlovich, they've been steadily just trotting away in this field, trudging through the difficulties, and we'll listen to him on the way down to Aqua Minerale here. Was getting chased by Scott McCune, but wait for this. The safety car's been called because of this. There we go. Pop goes the weasel.
A bunch of shrapnel scatters across the circuit.
And, well, that's a good opportunity for Griffin Gardner to make sure that the rear tyres are actually on the car this time. I don't know if there's anyone else who's going to benefit from taking a pit stop here, apart from maybe the number 41. It does help Darren Lobb and Andrew Dyson. They can afford to lose a bit less time relative to the cars around them.
I think Griff will be very, very happy that there is new boots on the rear end of the number 1 car.
It's been confirmed. The right rear was not changed on Griffin Gardner's car.
So it's just 1 tyre. That's even worse.
Yeah.
That explains all the really odd behaviour, because, if it was both tyres that were relatively similar, you'd have a nicely behaving car. But the fact that it's only 1 tells all the story. And it also says why that car came to him a little bit in terms of the stick, because the tyres just had to even out in terms of temperature. You notice that? As soon as the car sort of equalised, it came a lot more back underneath him.
Yeah, certainly did. Well, yeah, I mean, that... it just puts everything in context now. Remember, when Griffin came out of the pits after his pit stop, instantly the rear end swung around on him on the entry into this very corner. Right-hander on the entry to Tamburello. If your right rear wasn't changed, then, yeah, it's quite a big grip difference. Looks like immediately we're getting some wave arounds here.
Are we keen to get this one back underway quite quickly?
Yeah, we don't want this safety car to last any longer than is absolutely necessary. Get back to racing and get the final 16 laps of this race, maybe 15, underway. Another little visit to the shed, to the grandstand, and I mean, all you have to do is get up out of that grandstand, take a little walk, and get up close and personal with the Pacific Esports Racing 077. Just peek over the wall, and there he is, stricken.
Just nobody go talking to the driver right now. I don't know how happy they are necessarily.
Yeah. Wouldn't be ideal.
Pick up the entire car. That's a souvenir right there. Put that in the shed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Put the tarp over it. Hopefully all the cameras are pointing away when you do it. Just
get on the phone
engine.
to Angelo with his cherry picker.
Do you reckon there's no way you can get into the shed from there?
You have a big enough crane, maybe.
My problem is, those ladders, you're not getting on the roof of the shed from there with those. But they might be tall enough to get down to the racetrack.
Yeah, they may very well be.
Or the smaller ones to climb over the fence from this side, and the bigger ones to climb down the fence from the other side.
A little bit of duct tape, you can put them together and get a whole lot of extra height.
Oh, there you go. You put both together. Well, I don't know. Could you get all the way to the roof of the shed from there? I don't think you can. Even with both ways.
If you believe.
Don't tell me we're at the karaoke point of this stream. I believe I can fly.
Oh dear. There we go. And demonetized.
We were monetized?
Oh, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Is that what that stands for?
It is, yes.
You are full of fun facts, Reese.
I am. Sometimes I don't get the opportunity to dispense them.
More
I
endurance.
relish the
races.
opportunity.
Just purely for Reese. Reese's fun facts.
Don't worry, I'm sure I'll have a few more to rattle off at Sandown and Bathurst. Remember, we've got 2 rounds of the V8SCOPS Enduro Cup yet to come, and the remaining 2 rounds of the V8SCOPS season full stop for 2024.
What's for dinner in the Gardner household tonight?
What's for dinner? I haven't decided yet. I'm thinking of making a lentil curry.
Ooh, that does sound nice. I'm luckily having dinner for me this evening. I'm probably microwaving a little bit later on. And then
Very
back
nice.
into 2 hours worth of commentating to finish the evening.
Speaking of food, Jay'd like to pay a visit to the Ristorante, which is on the run out of Variante Alta. Sit there, have your pizza, have a look at the braking zone. Down to Ravazza. So much history around this racetrack. So much life.
Oh boy.
That's for real. That's what I really love about this place. It's so densely urbanized, and one of the things I love thinking about, and if I eventually do a video on the history of this racetrack, I'll probably say this. You know, the entire reason the track follows the route it does is because there's a river next to it. The river is actually in the scan. The exit of, Tamburello to Villeneuve, etc., there's a bend in the river that runs alongside the town of Imola. See, the river's right there across the start-finish straight. And if Jay pans to the right, you'll be able to see that the river continues on and bends to the left, and that basically defines the shape of this circuit. So, you want to know why Imola has the layout it does? Maybe go back a couple 100,000 years to the last ice age.
Probably doesn't need to go back that far. Over 100 years, the course of that river changes. And there's absolutely been some landscaping done in that route.
Oh yeah,
We're going to get an
absolutely.
opportunity here to have a look at this restart because it's coming to just out of Variante Alta. And I
Certainly
believe
is.
safety car's back in pit lane now, or it'll be very close to exiting the final corner. You'll get the opportunity to hear the Porsche Mission R. All
2 decibels of it.
Yeah.
There it is. Dan Stevens bringing it back into the pits as the field of V8s makes its way down to Ravazza. When does James Scott decide to get on the power? He's usually done it by Ravazza 1, and he just has, so away we go. Try not to go out too wide to the marbles, like the Racer Roscar just did there. And away we go. With 15 laps on the cards for the Imola 500, we are away.
And Darren Lobb has got an opportunity to fire back at these guys with fresh rubber on. Winners Griffin Gardner sit a lot further down in terms of the order, all the way back in 15th at the moment. Just got 1 spot, and now he's going to be on the aggression again. 4 fresh tyres for the 200k by Lobs Esports #1.
With the big pack here. Chris Coxhead right in the midst of this in the 208 as Lob manages to get the position out of Villeneuve, but Coxhead's fighting back. Make sure not to push too deep, but look at that, fresh tyres around the outside. He just jets away. That's magnificent to see.
43 is looking to make some inroads as well, just because everyone's been stacked up. Oh, Blackhawk and him came together.
Oh, just a little touch. Ultimately, Christensen staying ahead of Blacklock there, but I mean, you mentioned it before, just like Blake Warboys. You watch Sam Blacklock on the Zoom wall, and looks like he's just having a chill Sunday drive.
Himself down in the trenches because with 15 laps to go, here goes Griffin Gardner for another spot.
Yeah, braking zone at Ravazza 1. Get it done very nicely and keep that momentum down the start-finish straight. Now, this is going to be interesting. Brady Myers starting to catch up to James Scott here. Slipstream down at Tamburello. Zach Rattray White is still in the midst of this, as is Rehan Leonage. Our top four still very much together. If you were to pick a potential winner out of these four cars, I mean, the easy choice is James Scott. He's the one who's been able to come out on top more often than not, but the Enduro Cup always throws up a few surprises.
And a track that we've raced at a number of different occasions before, I think, is the big key. So this means that, you know, everyone's got a million laps around here, everyone's feeling comfortable, everyone's going to set up, done a lot of work on them. The modern driver won't have that experience in this group because it's every line machine around. He's got enough. He's worked his way really, really hard. I want to see how this unfolds in the Piratella. No, this is Tosa. That's Tosa. This is how it sets itself up. Remember, just ahead, Locke's head. Oh, sorry, Cox's head.
Now you've done it.
Yep, and the run in here.
Oh yeah, it's pushing a little bit wide, and on the exit is coming back onto the racetrack. Just a tiny little hit to the side. Nearly losing the car from under him.
And a redress, it's already done. So they didn't wait too long to get that redress out of the way. I think they're looking at that and going, all right, we've been ordered to redress. We don't really have much of a choice. Do it immediately and then go and get them again.
Yeah, remember there's only 13 laps remaining in the race now. James Scott has crossed the start-finish line. So you need to get a redress done, get it done as soon as possible. You can get back on the wagon and have a good run at it. Scott bringing the fastest lap down to a 141.6 now. Battle for fifth as well. Ewan Baker, Brett Loxton, Kenneth Latta. Only got another couple of cars back to Darren Lobb. He's in that pack somewhere.
It's 10th at the moment. He's just crawling up with Justin Wallace. You see the red and black.
Replay on board for Brett Loxton here. Running in 6th place right now. Have a look at the wheel through Tamburello. Just catches the speed bump over the curb. The steering is so sensitive in these things, and it needs to be. Oh, is it going to be sensitive enough here for Darren Lobb? Look at that. Oh, he's going to get another one here at Variante Alta. Great run. Is it going to be enough here? Might have to yield to the Race on Oz machine. Justin Wallace stays ahead for an extra corner, but remember, Lobb has the freshest tyres in the field. Well, he's definitely going to have a run down at Ravazza, surely.
Wait on the anchors. He might have to wait for turn 1.
Yeah, looks like it. Jay is absolutely on the replays right now. Car 6 versus car 196. Okay, so that's the ANZ car trying to get around the Phoenix machine and to the gravel trap. That is a slowdown for Henry King and Ben Christensen. Meanwhile, Lobb's still trying to get around Justin Wallace, and behind them we see reigning champion of the series, Griffin Gardner, now going to make his way past Chris Coxhead. Not enough room to get by at Villeneuve, though. He's going to have to redeploy his strategy from the opening laps of the race. Just trying to fight his way through. Fire up the inside at Tosa. A little bit of a bump to the Team Jinx Shifters Commodore, but he is through, and oh dear, here we go. Round goes Jamie Christensen. Sam Blacklock involved in that, as well as, it seems, the fishy car of Michael Angus.
Well, it's coming. That was coming all day long.
Yeah, it certainly was. So how on earth did all this go down? It was another firing up the inside there from Christensen on Blacklock, and then, it looks like Sam just spun up the wheels on the exit. And poor Michael Angus had practically nowhere to go.
The blocking's continuing on for the 13 car. Darren Lobbs is giving him multiple touch-ups in the last couple seconds on the run down to Ravazza. As the run out of Varianti Alta, he's just basically just rapping on him, and rapping on him. He's the onboard for Michael Angus.
Yeah, it all happened so quickly. I don't think he would have had much time to commit to the left side of the circuit from there. But up the front, it's continuing on, and for Darren Lobb, there's contact, a little bit of contact. Oh, easy does it. Lobb just enough space to squeeze through. Justin Wallace was hitting the rear by Griffin Gardner, and that sent him offline, and Justin's going to go all the way to the back of this pack, with Coxhead making his way past into Villeneuve. Now, Lobb might lose a position here if Gardner fires his way up at Tosa. He might be able to follow him through to an even better finish.
Yeah, that might be worthwhile. I think Darren Lobb's also going to take a look at this and go, you know what? I'm up for the fight. I'm feeling like getting the elbows out today, because again, he's just not in this fight. He's out here, he's having fun, he's doing something a little bit different he hasn't had the opportunity to do in a good little while. And to be perfectly honest with you, taking a look at the way that Justin Wallace was driving, he was just blocking left, right, and centre. And I cast your mind back to the Winton round earlier in the season, and the contact that went both ways from James Scott, I think it was Josh Anderson on that occasion. They both, it was Jake Maloney, sorry, my apologies, it was Jake Maloney, and they both sort of got one each, and it went, one where they got an advantage from and one where they lost out. And honestly, I'm taking a look at that, and I'm going from Wallace's perspective. Look, if you cannot block and cover every inside of the road, you're gonna get roughed up, and I kind of think he had that coming.
Yeah, up to a point. Ultimately, all the cars have survived that interaction, though some with a few more dents than others, but nobody spun, nobody crashed into the wall, and it is play on for the last 10 laps of this race. James Scott has a lead of 1.6 seconds over Brady Myers. Here comes Griffin Gardner up the inside of Darren Lobb. The move is complete by the time they get to the braking zone. Griffin pulls it up. Lovely fresh tyres, but big news for the 79. They've just been given a 10-second time penalty for that contact with the number 1 back on lap 83 at these very corners. Leonage, I think, will be just about to receive that news, and he'll be none too happy with how that's gone. That car is in third, fighting for second, and now that 10 seconds of time will be added at the end of the race. It'll drop them back down to 11th. A disastrous start to the Enduro Cup here for Phoenix.
But do you like what I saw out of that? He'd been passed that information on just before we crossed to him in that camera. And no whinging, no whining, no complaining, right? Think about a lot of the drivers when they get one that's right on the edge, or a penalty like that. There was none of that. Just quiet, goes about his business. How many drivers, they get a penalty they feel a little bit aggrieved by, their first comment is, come on, really? Nothing, not even a word like that. On with the job. Professional.
Yeah, I think that's something we see a lot from Rehan, isn't it? He seems unflappable behind the wheel.
Oh, no.
Not again. Not again. Come on, guys. All right. Now there's a car in between the two of them. And I'm pretty sure Blacklock's going to be grateful for that.
That's number 6 car. Might want to get a move on. I wouldn't want to sit where they are right now.
Going to be caught in the crossfire. Well, we'll see what Ben Christensen will be able to do here. Almost gets a hurry up from behind there by Jamie Christensen. Look at this, they've caught right up again. Oh, here comes Christensen, a little bit of a look. Oh, Ben! Oh no! Here we go again.
Round 10?
Yeah. something like that. It's definitely in the double digits. Runs out of road on the exit of Tosa, though. Has to drop back behind. Oh, man. Battle's going on all through the field. Not much of a battle for the lead of the race. Brady Myers still keeping Rehan Leonage behind him, but tell you what, Vermilion 117 will be very happy with the announcement of that penalty for the 79. That's basically guaranteed them a podium place here after a race that's been a little up and down. They've had to serve a couple of penalties themselves.
Don't say that. I mean, anything can still happen to the 117 before the end of the race, but yeah, I like where they're sitting. Really good job. Quiet. About their business, really unassumingly. Yeah, they've had contact with the 22 machine, but they wanted to redress it and they got on with the job. So, yeah, can't claim too much difference. And again, have a look at Rattray White. And if anyone's been listening to the commentating we've done over the last sort of 3 or 4, 5 months, is this guy didn't even barely drove this car last year. Barely touched it. Now have a look at where he sits in terms of the pecking order. You know, that is a man that's gone about his work, and he's put the time and he's put the effort in, and he's putting the laps in, and he drives a lot. I think we were doing some numbers earlier on in the year, and the driver that's done the most laps in SimSpeed races this year, the races that we broadcast, and exactly got it by a country mile. So the guy is driving so much at the moment, and he's putting together all of that muscle memory. It's paying off. The work is really, really paying off. And whilst you can look back at 2024 and go, oh, there's probably not a lot that comes out of that, well, I reckon there is, because you're going to have one of those years where you just find it the second half of the year. He's done that hard work now. 2025 is going to be a big, big year for that driver.
Yeah, certainly. If he continues on with his dirt oval stuff as well, might be seeing some awesome stuff from Zach Rattray White next year in, well, just a few months' time. We're coming up to the end of October. 2024 is almost over.
Don't remind me.
Oh, I'm sure there's a few people will be happy to put this year behind them. And, well, Blacklock, I think, might want to put this race behind him as well. It's been a really tough final stint there. Just lost 3 positions there with the Phase 4 car getting past him.
That might finally put a pin in the end of this one between the 043 and either of the drop deck guys.
Yeah, maybe. We'll have to wait and see on that. How much of a fight back is there going to be from Blacklock? There's going to be some. Able to get a better line through the middle of Tamburello. Jay Brazier's just been minding his own business for the most part. I mean, he's been in and around the fights that this car's been through, but he's never really made himself a big factor in them. See right there, he just let him go into Tosa. He's like, okay, look, end of a long race. I'm happy with the position that we're in at the moment. Just make sure that we get to the end, stay out of trouble.
I just realised, I was looking back through all the retirements that we've had today, unfortunately, and one of the big ones, I think, for me is the 46. We're talking about, you know, a 12-year-old, 14-year-old driver, Ocean Colangelo. You know, I think the hardest part about that one is, you know, they walk away with no result, and it's Philip Dalton who crashed that car back in the side of things. But that's where a career starts, you know, with the hard luck stories.
Here's Jordan Ross. And I think we saw this on live pictures just a few moments ago. Off the curb, whoops-a-daisy. Slight recovery right at the end there. Jay Ross chasing down Kenneth Latta. And I think it's been a good run for the Fishy Motorsport 269. Up 4 places. It's potentially going to be up 2 if Ross and certainly Griffin Gardner can get past him, but nonetheless, nothing like a intense but clean battle to end off a race like this.
Remember what I was saying at the top of the show as well? I really wanted to see Ken put together one of those drives, one of those polished drives. He's had pace, and again, I'm not taking anything away from his skill, his talent, his abilities. I think he's absolutely had pace in the last 6-8 months, but polish has been what's missing. Yeah, he needed that today. He certainly got it.
Yeah, and of course, also full credit to Jamie Dyke as well for helping Ken to bring this car home in the position that it is in, but still not over quite yet. Still going to be 5 laps to go here, and the battle for second is increasing in intensity. Remember that at number 79 in the middle of this trio has a 10-second time penalty hanging over it, so need to remember that. That's something that Zach Rattray White will be aware of too as he tries to chase these guys down. Brady Myers, I think, now that James Scott has galloped off into the distance, is just trying to focus on keeping these 2 cars behind him.
Yeah, and I think Leonage will just comfortably sit there, accept, follow him home. I think he'll play rear gunner a little bit for Brady. Rattray White's got pace at the moment out of these 3 cars. And I think Myers is actually starting to ail just a little bit. And I don't think it's front. Sorry, I don't think it's rear end, right? It's not rear grip. It looks like he's just struggling for turn-in.
Yeah, that's what I'm sensing as well. Another replay here of looks like the JTIT race on Oz Mustang, and it looks like the Michael Angus car from Fishy. Barge past at Variante Alta, almost getting into the tyre bundles there. Drama all the way through this field, as is par for the course for V8SCOPS. Darren Lobbs just made up another position. He's just passed Ewan Baker for 9th place. And Griffin Gardner passes Jordan Ross in a 1:43. As Zach Rattray White continues to run his way up to the back of Rehan Leonage. Worth pointing out that both Leonage and Rattray White have tyres 1 lap fresher than Brady Myers. It doesn't make that much of a difference in these cars, but I think it might just be enough in these conditions after 20 plus laps completed. Track temperature sitting at 22 degrees Celsius here right at the end.
Just going away from them a touch in terms of where they're looking for their car performance. The track's trended down across the course of the afternoon, hasn't it? As we get closer and closer to finishing time.
You remember how this race started out overcast? There wasn't a bit of sunshine, but partway through, out came the sun.
Drying up through the rain.
Some glorious late afternoon conditions.
You can tell the father between the 3 of us there in this commentary box.
Yeah, certainly can. Well, another position made up for the number 1 car. Griffin Gardner's fought his way back up to 6th now and is going to leave Kenneth Ladder and Jordan Ross to end this race off, battling amongst themselves. And Leonage falling off the back of Myers ever so slightly. And Rattray White stands a chance. It'll either come at Rivazzo or it'll come at turn 2. I think if you're one of the leaders of the race, it's one of the only places you can really stand to make up a place. But Piratella is also a place that you can fight if you're in the midfield. Looks like our old mate Sam Blacklock. Actually, no, that's Dylan Walker in the other Drop Bear Commodore fighting with Blake Warboys for P16.
Angus Lawford behind the wheel of the 168 machine as well, so there's a few of these in the mix at the moment. Ultimately, not the quickest break Warboys has looked in a while.
Yeah, I think maybe a lack of preparation potentially for the race. His form in the last few solo rounds has been pretty stellar, to be honest. But not quite sure what's gone on here at Imola for them. Another position made up for Griffin Gardner puts the Team Jinx Shifters 209 out of the top 5. And there's potential for Brett Loxton here to fall into the clutches of Ladder and Ross. And, you know, looking looking at this point a lap ago, it didn't seem like there was much of a chance of them catching Loxton, at least if you're talking about Ladder and Ross, but I think something might have happened to the 209 on the previous lap.
No, I think it's just been there and thereabouts, and the tyres are going away from him just a little bit. And,
he's just been losing time gradually over the course of the last lap.
3 laps left to run, 2.5 now too. And I was thinking Lob might be able to cut his way a little bit deeper back through the field. I think we only need probably another 3 or 4 laps on the tyres for Lob's pace to just be so much supremely quicker, but then he would have been out of time to cut his way through extra 3 or 4 laps worth, you know, maybe this is as far as he would have gotten back as well, but he's still got pace on these guys. And there is an opportunity for him to cut his way back through. And if Ladder starts to get a little bit aggressive with Loxton, I'll bring them all right back to Lob and give him a huge opportunity.
Indeed. Across the line comes James Scott to begin the 101st lap of this race. 9.8 kilometers worth of racetrack left to cover in this scintillating Imola 500.
Just beyond 3 hours race duration too.
Yeah, well, it has been a long day. Going to be just as long at Sandown, twice as long at Bathurst to end off the season.
How good's the when you get an average speed race that's quite pacey?
Yeah, it's always good. I expected a couple of safety cars, of course, but this race has gone by relatively quickly for a 500k.
Yeah, oh boy, now it's into the back, and this one's starting to get boxy as well. Because if Rattray White's going to get the job done, he's going to get it done this lap to give himself enough time to have one crack at Brady Myers, but I think that's going to cost him. And Darren Lobb trying to go the long way around to Jordan Ross.
Yeah, that's not ideal. It's going to cost him a little bit of time there, an extra few car lengths that Lobb will have to make up to find his way further into the top 10. This is the view from James Scott's perspective, all alone on the racetrack right now. Almost 5 seconds ahead of Brady Myers and Josh Anderson in the number 22. The white flag is out. Barney waving it as energetically as he always does. I'm sure he has more energy than us up here at this point. Certainly more energy than any of the drivers after such a long and hard race. Hardest working man in sim racing is Barney up in the flag stand there. Battle for second is still not over. Oh, yeah, Myers looked a little bit offline there.
Offline, and the rear tyres were not happy about it, and then the second battle pack's on its way through 1 and 2 now as well.
Well, that's good exit from Myers. Here comes Rattray White up the inside of Rayan Leonage. Rayan around the outside, going to get a slightly better run off the corner. But I think Rattray White might just have this.
I think the big key will be... I think Rayhan needs to know that he's got to yield that one.
Yeah, oh, he's not going to.
Let it go.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
I think someone just piped up in his ear and just reminded me I had a penalty that's not worth fighting.
Yeah, would have lost the position anyway on the results. So that completes the run back to third for Vermilion Esports 117. And the run to the win for the 088 is just about done. The first and third place cars, the only cars to ultimately finish the race in the positions they started out of the final corner. There's another attempt at Leonage and Rattray White, but he spun it at Ravazza. That's just going to cost him further as the start-finish line beckons for James Scott. It becomes the finish line. James Scott and Andrew Gilliam are your winners of the Imola 500 for 2024. Brady Myers and Josh Anderson come across the line in second, and then Zach Rattray White and Jacob O'Reilly. Great drive back to third spot for them. Ultimately, Phoenix Racing Team comes across in fourth, and looks like they're going to still remain in 11th spot. Bit of a drag race to the line here, though. Blake Warboys only just defending from Dylan Walker at the very end there.
Yep, gets the job done. Bales filled back as well. Gets it done. That's 500 kilometers from Imola. I've really, really enjoyed right throughout the day just watching the cars bounce across the chicanes. It's just such a beautiful, and we got to visit all the picturesque bits of it. We got to see the sun in all its glory in simulation land, and we got to see another clean, just under control, unflappable, on top of the world drive.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. I mean, it's what we've come to expect, really, from that 088 car. It's been up the top pretty much all season, and another win on the board for them, and first blood in the Endurance Cup. Brady Myers and Zach Rattray White bringing their cars home to complete the podium. Rehan Leonage and Dylan Pereira, bit of an embattled race for those two, and a rare mistake from Rehan Leonage right at the end there. We'll still come across in 11th after that 10-second time penalty. Across the line in 5th, Griffin Gardner and Dylan Rudd. Brilliant drive from the back of the field despite not getting the right rear tyre on in the second to last pit stop. Brett Loxton bringing the 209 across in 6th place, driving with Thomas Hinz. The Fishing Motorsport 269, Kenneth Latter and Jamie Dyke, well-earned 7th spot there, with Michael Taliancic and Jordan Ross in 8th spot. Good drive at the end from Darren Lobb and Andrew Dyson, with Ewan Baker and Adam Briggs come across the line in 10th.
And over the page, Chris Cox said, Justin Waller, Sho Kanatake. Great drive, actually, from that 86 car. They did a really, really good job. Blake Delaney, David Kirby, Blake Warboys. I would say that's probably a little bit out of sequence finish for the 63 machine. Dylan Walker, Angus Lawford, Aiden Cale got boxed about the years, and that car was sideways a number of times. Still recovers from 19th finish. And Ben Christensen's home in 12th.
Yes, and the end of the field then coming across. I mean, there's so many cars here that you would have thought would have finished a little bit further up, but I think what defined the racing today is just, once again, survival, being able to keep yourself in the fight. Many of these guys were involved in battles, very intense battles with each other. Rounding out the top 30, the number 91, Benjamin Smith, in the car at the finish there, driving with Joe Mahoney. And then we got into retirement territory. The Pacific Esports Racing 077, Stephen Banks and Peter Pavlovich. Then Race on Oz BE Electrical, Oceani Colangelo and Philip Dalton, the first to retire from the race and bring out that first safety car, and then ultimately disqualified for not meeting minimum laps for co-drivers. In fact, no co-driver in the car for either the 808 or the 800 there. David Nash and Robert Crisdale classified behind them. And, well, to the end here, we have our winners in the booth with us, James Scott and Andrew Gilliamola. Go to you first, James. Congratulations once again. First blood in the Enduro Cup. You and Andrew working like a well-oiled machine out there.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Never driven with Andrew before in Enduro, so I've always seemed to be battling against him. So no, it was good to finally have him in the car. And yeah, no, car went really well.
Yeah, certainly looked good at the end there. It just didn't seem like there was much of a threat to you guys, despite even the safety car coming out a few times over the course of that race.
Yeah, no, the car was really fast. I wasn't sure what was going to happen at the end there when the safety car came out. Obviously the draft and everything else, once everything tightened up a bit, you never know what can happen. But yeah, no, the car was really awesome. So able to get that comfortable gap and just be able to do a cruise to the end.
All right, and briefly bring Andrew into the conversation here. You started the race. It was obviously quite intense for you. What was it like driving with James Scott for the first time?
Oh, it's been a pleasure, to be honest. Like, we just controlled the race the whole time, worked together on strategy beautifully. No, it was a really strong day for us. So yeah, definitely looking forward to more races with James. It's a lot easier racing with him than battling with James because he's a bloody quick driver. But no, that was awesome.
Yeah, you guys make a great team, it has to be said. First winners of the V8SCOPS Enduro Cup for 2024. Still Sandown and Bathurst to go, James. So it is on, and the run to the championship is almost over as well. Who do you have to thank for your result tonight?
Yeah, but firstly, thanks Andrew for doing almost the majority of the race. I think he might have ended up doing more laps than me, but no, thanks to him for doing an awesome job handing it over in a really strong position. I just had to sort of control it from there. Obviously our sponsors as well, doing okay, Ryko Performance, Hybrid Racing Simulations, the other Lobs guys for helping out throughout the race, and you know, the other spotters that jumped in and helped out, you guys for the broadcast and the series admin people as well.
Well, Andrew Gilliam and James Scott, brilliant drive from the both of them to the win here in the Imola 500. Of course, it's only round one of the V8SCOPS Enduro Cup. The second last round of the entire season is round 12, the Sandown 500, on the 3rd of November from 3:30 p.m. Keep an eye out for that. It's going to be another 500k at a much simpler track than Imola, but going to be a race that's very different in nature. We come back to Australia the last 2 rounds of the season. We hope you can join us. Make sure to mark that date and that time in your calendar, and have fun with us here on SimSpeed TV, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. Wherever you've come from, we say thank you for watching. I'm Reese Gardner, Scott Rankin with me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes here on SimSpeed. We'll see you next time.